Got this last chord right here. Ooh, I love that last chord. Okay, tech news around the world. So here it goes. Hold on tight. Hold on to your chair. Welcome, everybody. If it's your first time, you are in luck. Wow, you lucky devil. You found the coolest and hottest room in Clubhouse. Both simultaneously, the coolest and the hottest. Don't ask me how that works. But just look at the beautiful, intelligent people on stage, and it speaks for itself. This wonderful crowd of geeks from all over the planet. You've got Cal, originally from Africa, then India, then the UK. Cheryl's a Singaporean in Tokyo. You got who the hell knows where JT is? I think he's in New York. You got Faraz, originally from Pakistan. Who knows where Faraz is? Justin's what you call a typical white boy on the East Coast. And Kieran from Sri Lanka. Carl's a geek in the UK somewhere. At least that's his accent would lead us to believe. Harry, what you're a weird one, man. You got Philippines. You are a Asian mutt, are you not?
I'm Filipino American, but I study in China, and I'm in New York City right now.
Right.
And he's only 20.
Yep. And you got Ranjit, originally from India, but works with me in Sweden, in Stockholm. And I skipped over Layla because Layla, I think you're the one person on stage who I don't. Sorry, Lale.
No worries. No, I'm originally from Iran, but
Nice.
I'm in Silicon Valley.
Nice.
I've been here forever. Yeah.
Nice.
Messi.
Yep. And
there's a way to address Lale. You call her Lale John.
Lale
Oh,
John.
thank you, Faraz.
And then
I don't know what it means.
Victoria's our resident VR AR guru, who you should absolutely follow if you are interested in that incredibly blowing up space, which we will cover again today, as we do every day. And Samer, originally from Iraq, if I remember correctly. And Mayra, that also sounds Persian. I hope I'm not wrong there.
Yeah, Myra.
Yeah.
Oh, you're Persian?
No, I'm not. I'm Mexican, so Myra.
Oh, yeah, I thought so.
Oh, Myra. Oh, Zamoras. Jesus. Ay, caramba. And then Luisa, your Latino brother right next to you there, your hermano. And we got too many people. Oh my God, the stage is packed. What am I doing? I scrolled down. I'm like, we're not going to have time to go through everybody. Oh boy. Okay, let's get into it. But we're well represented. We got good coverage everywhere. You got Mabana and Messi covering Africa, and we got Monica in India, and Chris coming in from Las Vegas from a trade show today. How's the trade show going, Chris? Health tech.
Going good.
Nice.
Really kind of cool to be out in public, to be honest.
Yep, back at it as normal. Okay, so everyone's happy and healthy, hopefully. And let's jump into the biggest stories of the moment. Right now, there's a couple of, we're going to start with the biggies. The biggest stories at the moment is one that we've been tracking every day for many weeks, is how what we call big tech, that's Facebook, Amazon, Google, Apple, and how governments are now starting to crack down on big tech to rein in their pursuit of taking over the world, essentially, because they started off taking over the blogs, and then in media and the newspapers and the magazines, and then they got into the music game with Apple Music and all the P2P file sharing, Napster, which Cal tried to buy at one point. Actually did buy at one point.
Yeah, Best Buy bought it. Yeah,
yep.
We bought it and then sold it.
Yep, and then big tech took over music, and then they got into movies, and then who was it? Amazon just bought MGM last. That got finalized a few days ago, and now that tech has eaten Hollywood and the music and the movies and the blogs and the media, now they're going into the banks. That's called fintech, and they're making good progress there. And then they're getting their sights set on med tech and ed tech, and then infrastructure. The pipes, the satellites that are bringing you Wi-Fi, and the cables spanning the oceans are now part of big tech, and it's getting interesting and these countries are starting to realize, holy shnikes, these big tech companies are not playing around, and they have a little bit of an unfair advantage because they're really good with this data thing. Have you noticed this? These big tech companies are quite good with the data. Hey, Francine.
Tyler, don't you think that this is discouraging entrepreneurship? Because these companies are so controlling that if you have a small company, unless it is something that they need and there are becoming fewer and fewer things that they need, why should you start a company?
Well, it's a good point because Elon, for example, says if he was doing something new today, it wouldn't be in traditional tech. That he would go into fields where there's really old, dying dinosaurs that are not innovating and just out innovate them, which is a form of tech. But he wouldn't try. He said, he wouldn't try to compete in fintech. He was one of the first fintech pioneers with PayPal. One could argue that was the OG fintech company. He says, man, I mean, by the way, my friends in Tink today just acquired by Visa for $2 billion in Stockholm. And there's fintechs popping off left and right. My God, that's the easiest way to make $1 billion today is to do a fintech easily. And there's still lots of terrain to cover in fintech, tons actually. And here's how you think about it: a bank provides hundreds of services, does it not? Mortgages being just one, savings account, checking account, remittances, blah 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 blah, on and on and on. Every one of those becomes a separate $1 billion fintech company. And so these banks are bleeding from 1,000 paper cuts because they're being attacked from every angle by these apps that specialize in an Uber-like way, where it's just one button, boom, I just sent a bunch of money to my friend in Afghanistan. And somebody else just, by the way, in 30 seconds just got approved for a mortgage based on data that's far more accurate about that individual than a bank's data set of how they calculate how to approve mortgages or not. And then you got the buy now, pay later phenomena, and that touches up on e-commerce, but it's essentially a loan made in real time when now, and this is exploding, is it not? Klarna just became the world's second biggest fintech company, also out of Stockholm, and just raised another, what was it, 45, what was that round? $66 million that they, no, it was billions. What did they raise? $45 billion valuation, and they raised 660 million. And that buy now, pay later thing is going to take over the world all by itself. That's huge. And that's a lot of data because it's a real time loan. When you check out with your shopping cart and they give you the option to buy it now and pay later, that's a loan, y'all. And that loan's based on data, like really smart data, all kinds of data. And when Johan on stage, who's also from Stockholm, also is in the data game, although he's not on stage at the moment, which is peculiar. But Sweden lets you export the data that these companies collect on you, and he exported the data from that app called Klarna, and it was 400 pages of data, literally. And it was everything he had ever bought at every pharmacy, every drugstore, every supermarket, the liquor store, on and on and on and on and on. He was kind of overwhelmed and shocked how much data they had managed to collect about him. And that's the point, is that data companies can use data in really clever ways, which gives them a very unfair advantage when they compete with non-data driven companies like the old dinosaurs of these big insurance companies, or the medical companies, or the education companies, which are wildly untechnically savvy. And so keep that in mind as we read through these headlines, and keep that in mind on this very first big headline, which is the House committee, after a debate, approves 5 major antitrust bills, which they have spent many months kind of drafting and whipping up. And our friend Justin on stage will kind of give us the insider baseball perspective from Capitol Hill, where he is on the ground in D.C., which is absolutely one of the best things about Clubhouse, is it not? That he can bring the political angle because he's on the ground in D.C., having spent time there geographically, professionally. And what's your take, Justin? Now, it says that the House committee approves 5 major antitrust bills, including regulations on user data portability and acquisitions of competitors. And now it goes to the Senate, or what happens now?
Yeah, so to make this really simple, real quick, a line on why this matters. The United States Congress is trying to improve our current legal framework, excuse me, to make it easier for the government and other companies to sue the big tech companies. Think Apple, think Facebook, think Twitter, think Google. I'm sure I'm missing one or two. and make it so that those companies don't use anti-competitive practices to kind of strangle the marketplace and hurt consumers and entrepreneurs alike. So that's what the goal is. Because it got through this committee, the reason why that is significant is because you have, as I've said on this show before, the conservative most members of the Republican Party with the liberal most members of the Democratic Party agreeing that big tech is a problem, agreeing that big tech is too big and it's creating problems for consumers and entrepreneurs like we have on this stage and in this audience, and that there is a solution that they can all agree on. Those are the three things that you need. The fourth thing that you need to pass legislation through the United States Congress right now, because our country is so divided, is a strong amount of hatred towards a common enemy. And that is how Republicans and progressives and libertarians all view big tech, with animosity. So that's kind of the setting. The reason why this is significant is that passing a committee is the first hurdle. This means that, Tyler, the next thing that's very likely, assuming Nancy Pelosi wants this to happen, is that the bill will receive a vote in the full House of Representatives. Now, whether it passes or not is kind of up in the air, but I would say it's probably a 70% chance that this bill will pass the House of Representatives because it requires a simple majority. The next thing that needs to happen is after it passes the House, it needs to go to the Senate, and it needs to pass the Senate. And that's where this bill, if I were to be a betting man, and fortunately for everybody in the audience, I do like to gamble, that this legislation will not be signed into law. But to do a quick recap and give everybody an optimistic viewpoint moving forward, big tech needs to be regulated. Members of the United States government and Congress agree with that. There is a solution that they're putting forward. Point number 4, although it won't likely pass this Congress, I would say with near certainty that there is going to be a strong solution with bipartisan support over the next 2 to 4 years that gets signed into law. And eventually, folks, this is why it's big for tech news around the world. Eventually, it will reorganize our tech company landscape after these lawsuits are brought successfully against these companies. So this is really the biggest news I think that anybody could focus on.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's, by the way, it's not only in the U.S., because at the same time that it's happening in the U.S., you have the EU in recent days also announced. These 5 bills, by the way, were sort of just announced only about a week ago, right, Justin? And then, even though there's been a long, lengthy legal process leading up to it, but now that the bills are drafted and now they're doing that, the committee hearings and then the House and the Senate, song and dance, dog and pony show. But the same process is well underway, and in the EU, the UK, Japan, Germany, and Canada, all rather simultaneously, all within a week or two, all said we're all ready to crack down on big tech. And it's interesting the timing of this, and I can put on my little conspiracy theory hat, and we have actually a proper soundtrack for this now, which is, isn't it interesting that this is all coming to a head right as big tech's about to get into ed tech and med tech, where that data is far juicier than anything they were getting out of your Netflix queue or your YouTube videos or what you were searching for. Your med tech data and your ed tech data, that takes things to a whole other level. Oh, and by the way, in the past week, this tremendous new game-changing, world-changing phenomena just landed in the West called social commerce, which means we already saw that the big stores are going into Amazon and doing e-commerce, and now the mom and pop shops, the flower shop, the cake shop, the shoe shops, now can go on to e-commerce as well. Facebook just announced 2 days ago with Mark Zuckerberg, with my old friend Shiva, head of commerce at Facebook, and thank you to Michelle for looping me in. They did their announcement that now Instagram, WhatsApp, and regular Facebook app are you're all going to be able to create little flower shops and cake shops, and every little shop inside of all of these apps. Oh, TikTok is in it, by the way. Everyone's in it. You're going to be able to make a little app in every social media app. You'll make your little store, and you will be able to leverage the existing followings and influence of the social media influencers who will get a commission for driving the traffic to your little shops. And it's a clever little arrangement. But if you think about this for more than a second and you notice some of the headlines we've read recently, there is a tremendous 300 million square feet of warehouse space needed just to meet the current demand before the social commerce revolution, before every cake shop, flower shop, and shoe shop jumped into Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp. And keep in mind, once they jump over, I'm not so sure it's going to make sense to keep paying to have that shop on Main Street, because it will only make up about 10% of their business once they become an e-commerce business. So what you're going to see is all of the mom and pop shops transitioning over to e-commerce, what we call social commerce, and a lot of autonomous vehicle delivery. We're going to get into that and show you the photos. We got all the receipts, by the way. And now here's why this is relevant to these 5 big bills in the US, and why the EU and the UK and Japan and Germany and Canada and all these folks are now cracking down on big tech. Because once these mom and pop shops transition over to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc., now when Twitter is having a beef with Nigeria, they just got banned in Nigeria. Okay, that's fine. Nope, not such a big issue until all of the mom and pop shops in Nigeria are on Twitter, and they're selling all their stuff on Twitter, and that's their main source of revenue because there's an actual little e-commerce stores in Twitter, right? Just like there is very soon to be, just like in TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp. And so when the leaders of Nigeria say, hey, Twitter, get out of here. We don't like the message. We don't like these tweets. They hurt our feelings. You need to stop, get out. Okay, that's easy to do today. That's not so easy to do when 30% of your businesses in your country are on that platform. You see where I'm going? So isn't it a little interesting coincidence that at the exact same time social commerce is launching, and mom and pop shops are all going to be jumping on this like a hot potato, because now you don't have to save up a bunch of money and get a loan to open your pizza shop. You just open your pizza shop inside of Instagram. And so now you're going to have a whole lot of these mom and pop Instagram shops because they make it super, super simple. By the way, don't forget just how easy it was. Before Facebook, it was not so easy to make a web page for yourself on the internet. And I bet you the 400 people in this room, less than 20 of them had websites for themselves on the internet before Facebook. And the other 380, when Facebook came about, was like, this is simple. This is easy. This is what we've been waiting for. Oh, I upload my photo. I type a little bio. Oh, what's cool? Okay, sure. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, what do you know? Everyone I went to high school has got a Facebook account now. Right? Same thing's going to happen with every mom and pop shop on the planet. It's not easy for them to get on Amazon. Very few small percentage of them are. Again, less than 10%. The other 95% are waiting for an incredibly simple solution, which Mark Zuckerberg just did again, just like he made it easy for you and every idiot you went to high school with to get on Facebook. He's now making it easy for every shop in your neighborhood and every neighborhood around you and every city and town around you for hours and hours and hours and around the planet to create their little e-commerce shops in Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, the 3 properties that they own. And by the way, he has an incredibly huge incentive to do this because Apple, in the meantime, is cutting off his life supply of juicy data, of cookies. And the whole data tracking game they were using to power their ad network, that's going bye-bye. So Mark needs a whole new way to make a huge new business, which is social commerce. And so, again, what's going to happen? And it already has happened, where Facebook had a little bit of a beef with India because there was a hashtag, Resign Modi. And India says, hey, Facebook, take that down. We don't like this Resign Modi hashtag. My brother, take it down. And Facebook said, oh, shit, because we want to do business with 1 billion plus people, and our future of our business is your economy. So we want to take it down. And at the same time, the Facebook employees back home in Silicon Valley are saying, no, Mark, don't take it down. Freedom of speech. Remember, we're Americans. Nice little predicament Mark got himself in there. So how's this all going to play out? Well, the governments want to crack down on the powers of these big companies, prevent them from taking over other industries like medtech, like the medical industry, like the education industry, like the insurance industries, and like retail in general, because they're really about to swallow retail completely and turn it into e-commerce. And because once all of those mom and pop shops or the medical system is on their platform or the education system is on their platform, good luck kicking them out if they start using hashtags you don't like.
And by the way, with the social, it's Mahogany.
Hey,
With
Mahogany.
the social commerce thing, they might. I don't know if we heard about how Twitter Spaces is going to start ticketing. Basically, these tech companies are
Yeah.
getting into ticketing as well.
Yeah.
And with the issues that Ticketmaster, which is kind of a monopoly in the U.S.,
Oh, not
has
not
been
kind
facing,
of.
like,
Hang on. You just pushed a button, girl. So you're talking to a former touring musician how to deal with capital. So check this out. Coachella's the biggest music. Oh no! Not only were they a monopoly, they were abusing their monopoly power by charging ridiculous fees, which drove Pearl Jam to go 2 hours outside of LA to do a little concert on a polo field, which became Coachella. And every artist joined Coachella to send a huge middle finger to Ticketmaster to say, hey, if we got to drive 3 hours outside of LA to go play in a polo field, we're going to do it just to make a point that we hate you, because Ticketmaster did something very clever, which is not so different. By the way, Mahogany, you just found the perfect metaphor. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to start using this metaphor going forward, because what Ticketmaster did was they went to every venue, every sports arena, every large venue where bands could play to any decent sized audience, anything more than like 500 people, and they did an exclusive contract that says, if you have artists play here, we have an exclusive to sell tickets at this venue. So the Shrine Amphitheater, all the amphitheaters, all the sports arenas, all of them are all under control by Ticketmaster. So you as an artist cannot tour in America anywhere unless you're going to play somebody's backyard barbecue. And there's a good chance Ticketmaster has a deal with Uncle Harry's backyard barbecue. So that's why it took Coachella had to go way out into the middle of the desert in Palm Desert on a polo field to find a venue where you could hold the festival that Ticketmaster didn't have an exclusive for the venue. And yeah, the industry united against them in a kind of a way, and they abused their monopoly, and they were very clever. And it comes down to data in a similar way. The big tech companies are sort of starting to monopolize the data and control the data, and it's very interesting. In fact, we read a headline 6 hours ago here that the medical industry now realizes it's all about that valuable, juicy data. And as Heisem, who's a medical professional on stage, told us, paradoxically, and I bet John probably confirmed this as well, it's an interesting point, that these medical professional outlets are often more prone to leaking data than the big tech companies are, because they're not as savvy on the tech front. So maybe it's not such a bad thing that the big tech get their hands all over this juicy medical data, because they're much less likely to leak it and be hacked. Because Google isn't going to be hacked the same way that the Irish and New Zealand medical facilities were both ransomware attacked in the last 2-3 weeks. Google's not getting ransomware attacked. So if Apple and Google have your medical data, at least you're safe in that front. So maybe we should fall into the arms of big tech. But the second headline that we read about 6 hours ago was, now that these medical outlets are starting to understand the value of all of this medical data, and they're starting to sell your medical data. Like, hold on, Charlie. That's why we
They've
didn't.
always been selling it.
Yeah.
So the data warehouses have always been selling.
Hey, Tyler, to your point, the relationship that Mayo developed with Google within the last 6 months is exactly playing to your point, and that is, let's let Google manage the infrastructure and the security, and Mayo will operate on the data. So they've taken the best of both worlds, keeping the data accessibility to those who have expertise in managing those data sets and applying it to improving the health of communities, while at the same time securing the infrastructure, cost effectiveness, security, cyber protection of a Google. So it's beginning to happen precisely as you're describing.
Well, I want to circle back and thank Justin for giving us the Washington D.C. perspective in this, because geeks, it's interestingly, are kind of polar opposites. I mean, there's this huge separation philosophically and on every level between Silicon Valley and Washington D.C. or other geek hubs and Brussels and or Geneva, like where the UN meets. So yeah, they are just the geeks and politicians. There's very few people who's crossed that chasm, very very few indeed, and they are culturally incredibly different tribes, so to speak. They have a very different cultures, and they're really kind of resist each other. The San Francisco kind of libertarian ethos is just really would prefer to never ever have to ever have a dinner or lunch or anything with any politician ever again. Just let us do our wild utopia, drone deliveries, autonomous vehicle, fun, and keep the politics out of it. But the reality is the politicians are understandably realize we need to get a control of this, because here's partly why. Somebody brought up a really great point yesterday in this time zone. I believe it was Chris, which is we've got these incredibly huge new bills to reinvigorate the economy, right? These stimulus bills, $1 trillion bills. And isn't it a coincidence that there's some members of Congress now also simultaneously pointing out, hey, Apple's now worth over $2 trillion. Microsoft yesterday just broke $2 trillion market value. And Amazon and Google are very close behind. They're all about to break the $2 trillion club. $2 trillion. It was only a year ago that we had the first $1 trillion, and now they're all about to break $2 trillion. And by the way, what do they all have in common? Big tech. Did the oil companies ever get there? Not even close. Did the pharmaceuticals? Not even close. Right? So, yeah, well, they got some deep pockets, and the politicians on Capitol Hill are saying, are they not, Justin? It's high time these $1 trillion companies start paying a little more taxes. That's certainly what
They Tyler, this is an issue where Americans all agree.
Right.
You don't have
not
to be
just
a big
Americans.
tax and spend liberal, right?
Even more so, the EUs, the Europeans are like, what the F is going on? All these big American companies coming over here, going buck wild, rocking the boats and not paying any tax. And what the F's going on over here? We've had enough. And that's what's happening in the EU where I work, where I work with the government. Yeah.
Just to add some nuance here, right? I tend to be, as my dog tries to literally tear the head off of an innocent bike rider. I tend to be pretty critical of big tech, despite working in PR for Silicon Valley. But that being said, Tyler, politicians do understand. Political aides do understand. You have some of the smartest people in the world working for the EU politicians, the US politicians. They do understand the critical improvements to society that has been made on the backs of these founders of these big companies. It's gotten to a point where the wealth accumulation, the power accumulation, and like you said, the ethos of a lot of these founders who are basically saying, leave me the fuck alone. I don't care if the world burns. Let me create my product. That is what really turns off not only the politicians, but Americans and Europeans and just upstanding citizens. And something does have to change.
Yeah, but it's all happening simultaneously. Very interesting. And we're gonna stay tuned as usual on the play-by-play basis. We're here twice a day, multiple hours each time. The headlines come in often as we're sitting here, and we are blessed to have people like Justin on the ground in DC on this particular issue to really help us unpack it and understand it in a way that is marvelous. And God bless the power of Clubhouse for enabling what I feel. And I hang out in Justin's room, which precedes this room. We hang out there for 2 hours every day, and then we jump right into here. And by the way, you had Leon Panetta on yesterday. How did that go? Sorry, because that's in the part of the you meet twice a day, just like we do, and I sleep during your other session when you had Leon Panetta on. Can you give a little recap?
It was an amazing show. Amazing show.
Really
it,
amazing.
it was fantastic, Tyler. And the way you know you've done something right, especially in politics, because I don't try and pick winners and losers. Leon Panetta was Secretary of Defense, was the head of the CIA for Democrats. And after the show, his whole show was about unity, about coming together, not only about American values, but about democratic values, whether in Stockholm, whether in Poland, or the UK, or the United States. And it was about integrity and how, regardless of your political views, politicians owe us two things. They work for us, and they must always keep that at the center of what they do, and they owe us the truth. And it was just a beautiful event that not only filled, I think, everybody with a sense of patriotism for whichever country they are living in that has democratic values. It kind of renewed my sense, not only in humanity, but in politicians. And then after the show, we had people reaching out that were pro MAGA supporters, pro Bernie Sanders supporters, everybody. Nobody had a bad word to say about Secretary Panetta because at the end of the day, he was giving a message that people thought was honest. And he wasn't pulling the wool over their eyes. And you had people from all over the world able to ask the former Secretary of Defense, former CIA director, which is a loaded titles, right? People from other countries, people from the US even, have different views and opinions on our intelligence and our military agencies. But everybody asked questions earnestly. Everybody acted in good faith. And again, we had a former U.S. Special Forces member ask his former boss, the guy who was sending him into life and death missions, questions in front of 2.5 thousand people in a way that you could only have happen on Clubhouse. People who would never give the time of day to the CIA director were listening in and asking questions. And honestly, Tyler, I think Secretary Panetta came blown away from our meeting, not only because of the intelligence of the people using Clubhouse, but the reach and the impact that this app can have. And he specifically said, more people need to be doing shows like this where we get past the political bullshit. And that's what Clubhouse can offer us,
Amen.
folks.
How many people were in the room?
We had, and this will help us with our future bookings, as Tyler always makes sense. In only 2 hours, we had over 19,000 people cycle in and out. And depending on what stat you use, people were staying for an average of 11 or 12 minutes. So it was, it was pretty good
Fantastic.
speed.
And so I just want to reiterate to people to understand how important this is. And you've heard me say this many times, and I'm going to keep saying it because Justin plays a critical role in bridging between Clubhouse and the members of Congress and people like Leon Panetta, and bringing them in and sharing their incredible insights in a way that we've never had access to before and may never again. Actually, this format is truly amazing in this way, and I'm saying that as an American listening to American politicians like Leon Panetta. To highlight how critical this is we're coming up upon the midterm elections, and this I think many of you people who use Clubhouse regularly understand how this format is so uniquely positioned to be so incredibly perfectly suited for town hall meetings with members of Congress and political candidates to come in and share their views and have and as Justin's been doing each day, kind of a very respectful, high-level conversation, kind of with a little Q&A audience. It's just fantastic. It could be so game-changing for, I dare say, even for politics. I am so incredibly optimistic and excited about this platform and just the way Justin does his rooms, and how perfectly positioned Clubhouse is in this regard. And I would love to see that happen. So when Justin is hosting rooms, please follow him. Please go into those rooms, and if you're enjoying it, please bring in your friends and tweet out a link on your Twitter accounts or whatever, and get people in. Here's why it's critically important, because then when he's inviting incredibly, I don't know if you've noticed, I've definitely noticed, and I even predicted he will continue to get better and better and better guests if he continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger crowds, because the invitations that he sends often will mention the size of the room, which he just shared here. And very often, and I say this because I organize one of Europe's biggest tech conferences. Every time I ask speakers to come, well, the first question in their mind, if I don't say it up front, is, how many people are there? And if you say there's 200 people, they're not interested. And if you say I've got 20,000 people, they're more than happy to come by. So please do show up. It actually makes a huge difference. And so I think it's critical.
And just to really put a fine point on this, Tyler, we started out by having very nice members of Congress and very nice members of reputable news organizations, but people who maybe weren't the centers of power. Upcoming, we have three of the most powerful members of Congress on that you've probably never heard of. We have Congressman Jim Himes, and they're powerful because you haven't heard of them. We have Congressman Jim Himes coming on the show Sunday, who's one of the top 3 or 4 people that determines everything for our U.S. intelligence agencies. Monday, we have a Republican who's poised to take over chairmanship of the Natural Resources Committee. Think about how important natural resources is to tech. Think about how important it is to making an iPhone or a battery for Tesla. This guy, the Republicans likely will take over the House in 2022. He's going to be the man in charge of creating all of the policy for America regarding natural resources for the next 2 years. He's going to come on our show Monday to give us conservative positions and solutions to climate change because he believes it's real. And then on Tuesday, we have a representative right now who is in charge of all the funding for the United States Navy and armed services in the ocean. And that is kind of what we're trying to do here with Tyler's help, with you folks. So if you don't want to listen to our journalists, that's fine. We do ask, though, that you kind of come in for these discussions because I'm going to send out about 50 emails today to senators of both parties, to members of Congress. And it really does help when you get 20,000 people in a room as opposed to, a few hundred.
Right. So just to put transition in, because we have so many a number of headlines to get into, that here's a headline that could give you an indication of where things might go, because this whole process of the U.S. cracking down on big tech, simultaneous to the EU, UK, Japan, Germany, Canada, and there's a new country every day now jumping on the big tech bashing bandwagon, is China was actually a few months ahead of this entire process. And it started with Alibaba, where they were going to do the world's largest IPO that had ever happened before for their sister company called Ant Financial, which controls Alipay, one of the 2 main ways that people pay in Asia, not just in China, but all across Asia. And magic presto, goodbye, boom, see you later, gone. All of a sudden, the Chinese government tells Jack Ma, sorry, we're not going to do an IPO for Ant Financial. Oh, and by the way, where'd Jack Ma go? Nobody's seen him for 3 months. This happened. And the IPO disappeared. Not going to happen. And then we started reading headlines that now Alibaba's going to have to pay, what was it, $2 billion fine, Cal? And then all of the other big tech companies, Tencent, Meituan, Pinduoduo, ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, ByteDance. They're all being fined these just mind-blowingly large fines, and they're being cracked down on their data usage and their monopoly tendencies, just like we're seeing in the U.S. right now with the American big tech companies, and the same thing that's going on with them in Europe and everywhere else I just mentioned. But China did it in what we call China speed. It's boom, 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 boom. It's not this long, lengthy legal process, that's going to take years in the U.S. or in the EU. And
all shut down in 6 months.
Yeah, they don't waste time with this stuff. So there's a headline today that could give us a glimpse as to how this could possibly play out. Well, there was 2 headlines actually. This one I think is the more likely, which is from the Southern China Morning Post, a great publication based out of China, by the way, easily my favorite. ByteDance founder, which is TikTok, although they have more than TikTok, but it's their biggest title. ByteDance founder donates 500 million won for education amid rush by tech billionaires to show charitable side after Beijing's crackdown, the Beijing crackdown I just told you about. And so it says there's a big rush by tech billionaires to show their charitable side after all this Beijing crackdown. And indeed, Jack Ma of Alibaba is also now being called a major philanthropist in China. And the 38-year-old founder of TikTok, ByteDance, is the latest Chinese tech billionaire to make a generous charitable donation, giving away about 77 million US dollars to set up an education fund in his home city of Luoyang in China's Fujian province. And he's not the only one. The other founders of Pinduoduo, who's worth now $44 billion, gave even more. And so they're all, by the way, they've all resigned. This gentleman from TikTok stepped down. Well, say what? TikTok's the fastest growing company in media history. Well, why is he resigning? Well, he's going to kick back, as they say. It's called laying low. There's been a bunch of articles written lately that China's calling it the new laying low, kicking back, not keeping your head too high, and doing a lot of big donations. And then the Pinduoduo founder, which is even far bigger than TikTok. It's not media, it's social commerce, this huge social commerce phenomenon I'm talking about. Imagine Amazon meets Facebook head on, or Amazon meets YouTube head on. That's Pinduoduo, and the Pinduoduo founder, now worth $44 billion, also resigned. Say what? Fastest growing company in the history of companies. Makes Uber look like a slow growing snail of a company. Makes it's unprecedented how fast Pinduoduo grows. Just to give you context, it's just barely over it's 4 years old, coming on 5-year-old company, now bigger than Amazon. Try and do that. Try and make a company bigger than Amazon in 4 years. That's how fast it grew. So he resigns. Say what? Why is the fastest growing company in history? Why is the founder resigning? The two fastest growing companies in history, TikTok and Pinduoduo, the founders are resigning and becoming major philanthropists, not unlike Bill Gates, as we talked about in the last meeting, who's one of the largest philanthropists globally. Anyway, that's what's happening in China as a result of the big Beijing crackdown, according to a Chinese publication, South China Morning Post. So they had their big crackdown. The founders are resigning and becoming philanthropists. Okay, that's option number one. That's what's happening in China right now. Also, somewhat interestingly, concurrently, simultaneously, we saw the headline today that Alibaba, back to Alipay. Again, remember, they were about to IPO, largest IPO in history, got shelved, 86th, iced, put in the ice box. Say what? Why would you do that? Well, a week later, China announced their digital currency, the digital yuan. They had their own plans for how Chinese people are going to pay for things. And that Alibaba Alipay IPO was not helping. Not helping one bit. So that got shelved. And now we kind of know why in the headline we saw today. That Alipay, again, has over 1 billion accounts of people using Alipay. 1 billion people using Alipay. Now all of the Chinese government now says that is going to become a merger with a state-owned company so that they can have the transactional shopping data of 1 billion Chinese people. Oh, okay. I see now. By the way, as the article says, again from South China Morning Post, it's about the credit score to determine the credit scores of these individuals, which China's don't really have in the same way. But the Alipay does allow you to get the data necessary to create a credit score, which you would bundle with your Chinese digital currency. The Chinese digital currency is new. They don't know, people are just starting to use it, so they don't have your history of your purchase history. Alipay
Again,
had
Tyler,
that.
the speed of this, the new entity, which could be established as soon as third quarter of this year.
Right.
That's 1 billion people, and then more than So within a year, you've basically you've stemmed this company that has basically been serving consumers, billion consumers. You've created a state-owned enterprise. You've to create credit scoring company, and within they're expecting here in the third quarter of this year, all that data is within that other company.
And by the way, no mention of this in Western press. Really interesting. Anyway, so we've got that's just to get the party started. And we've got my God, we're going to have to go really, really fast through all these headlines because we have 5 hours of headlines and 2 hours to get through them. So where do we start? Here we go.
Who is in a
Tyler, just to
hurry? I can easily put 5 hours into this.
Hey, Johan. I was just talking about you, Johan, when you exported your Klarna data. Am I correct in remembering it was 400 pages of everything you had ever bought, essentially?
Yeah, 400 pages. And it was not only what I bought, to also give the estimate of what kind of red wine droves I liked and what kind of headache medicine I bought, etc., etc. So it actually gave score for Zinfandel drove in my case.
And maybe you bought that headache medicine after too much red wine, and your
They
credit
are
score.
never connected.
Yeah,
Not
interesting.
the crackers from the supermarket as well, because it was also what kind of things I like to buy at the supermarket. Digestive crackers, for example, was one of the listed. A couple of Procter and Gamble's products as well were also listed as high hitters on me. Johan, done speaking.
Thank you, Johan. So we're going to jump through.
Tyler,
Yes.
Wall Street Journal actually written about this credit scoring system.
Yeah.
I just tweeted it to you.
Okay. Who? I'm sorry, I missed who said that. Renjith, was it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking for it. I don't see your tweet. How many minutes ago?
Just like 5 minutes. I can DM you also.
No, I'll get it here. It'll come in. So let me go through in no particular order what people have been tweeting in over the last several minutes here. Dr. Fran sent in a really interesting article. I don't know if she's on the stage at the moment, but it's about Vario. Vario is really an incredible pioneer, and if Victoria's on stage, she's excited because they are the super elite VR headset company out of Finland. I believe Helsinki, outside of Helsinki. And they just announced what they call a new world awaits, the Vario Virtual Showcase on June 24th. I'm now tweeting this from the Tech News. Oh, shoot, where did it go? I can't do that, what I thought I could do. It's in the Twitter feed, and it's truly fantastic. They are creating a whole new cloud of VR, a VR world, the metaverse. And that in itself is an incredibly interesting aspect of the digital future going forward. And it involves med tech, and it involves ed tech, and it involves the future of shopping in very big ways, fundamental ways. Imagine ed tech where you now feel as if you're sitting in a classroom when you're not, by wearing a VR headset. And there's students around, and there's a teacher, and you can hear the teacher hears you. That fundamental, it's no longer Zoom now, is it? No, not at all. It's you sitting in a classroom with a teacher with a whiteboard.
And you better believe they're going to use all of they learned about how to make things sticky and how to teach people to integrate that into that platform too, right?
Yep. And then, by the way, the teacher says, "Oh, let's talk about World War II." Next thing you know, you're on the battlefield, storming the beach in Normandy, your damn self. And that's going to revolutionize education when you're jumping from battlefield to battlefield covering World War II, or I can't imagine doing history classes in VR. That's just going to blow people's minds, let alone every other subject. I mean, it's just going to be mind blowing. So all of everything we've been talking about is about to get transformed due to VR and Vario and these metaverses and even e-commerce. We talk about. Stay tuned. There's way too much to cover in 1 hour, so just got to hang tight. So, are you back, Victoria?
Yeah. I actually sent you an article related to the same thing. I don't know if it was
yes, the same I did. I retweeted it. So please tell us what is this excitement all about? This Vario? It looks like they're doing their own metaverse of some sort.
Actually, they're taking it a step further, where they're doing cloud volumetric live streaming. So if you have a Vario headset, you could live stream your exact surroundings in 3D space. Someone else could actually be in your space with you. So it's this cohesive mixed reality experience. So yeah, it's a bit further than just being in a virtual classroom together. You could essentially all share the same exact space.
Like a classroom.
Yeah, yes, but virtually and a combination of real and virtual, because it's still volumetrically live streaming the physical aspects of your surrounding. So right now what people are doing is they're essentially streaming a straight virtual world, which are things that were made virtually, 3D modeled, 3D scanned at some other point and then imported into the world. This does it on the fly. So it's just, okay, I'm standing here in my room right now as it is in this moment. Let me volumetrically live stream this to you, and then you could sit right next to my actual desk.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's also good that there's another player other than the traditional big tech players, right? Like Facebook with Oculus. If Apple gets into it, which of course they will, Google. It's like I really like Vario, and look forward to everything that they announce. And this looks super exciting. We tweeted it from the Tech News Twitter account, so you can do follow the Tech News Twitter account, and you can see everything that we talk about. Every article we share is going to be there, and that's how we do it. So thank you for sharing that one. You'll have to scroll back a bit and see it. And Rhonda shared an article that just a little one, that Tinder has made an update allowing users to chat briefly with someone before they meet in the app. It's kind of like a little first date kind of a thing. That's pretty clever, because you might like somebody on Tinder and then you do the first date and you realize, holy smokes, why did I swipe right on this knucklehead? And now you can figure that out inside the app. Very convenient. Save a lot of time. Pretty clever. But speaking of artificial reality, did you happen to see this Facebook patent about artificial reality baseball cap, Victoria?
No, I haven't.
I'm tweeting it right now from the Tech News Twitter account. You have got to see this. It's a patent illustration. You got to see this just to have a nice little laugh at it. It's a baseball cap with a visor that pulls down, and it looks like it's kind of silly looking. But it's it's like it's like sunglasses, but you don't need the frame that goes over your ear because it's a baseball cap with a built-in sunglass. But I imagine it lowers the glare, and it has all kinds of benefits from an AR perspective, and an additional battery storage, because of a baseball cap kind of form factor, instead of trying to squeeze in a battery into the arm of a sunglass. So it's kind of clever in that regard. Carl, if Carl's on stage, I assume he is, sent in an article about the time-lapse Google Earth engine. You want to share that one? I will share it.
Oh, yeah. No, this was as a response to something that was, I think it was Polly sent in something about the change in climate. And,
yes.
So the time-lapse thing, the Google time-lapse thing, is something that came out a couple of months ago. They've been working on it for a while. And it actually shows you can pick a place. It's a bit limited at the moment. It's not everywhere. You can pick an area like Abu Dhabi, for instance. Oh, I apologise for the background noise. And then slowly see the progression of climate and the landscape and everything over a 30, 40-year period sometimes, which is just, it's amazing. It's a really good way to get some perspective on how we're affecting the environment.
Yep. And then you also shared one about Peloton axes, their free Just Run feature from their treadmills, which essentially turns the treadmill, kind of bricks it, essentially, like the Tread Plus owner. Yeah.
Yeah, this is games on both sides. So this article is a little bit of a game by the person writing it, because it sounds worse than it actually is. They're making it sound like Peloton are purposefully bricking people's devices if they don't have a subscription. But what actually happened, the official statement from Peloton, I'm doing all this from memory, so please correct me. The official statement from Peloton is that they did an update, and it was a security update. And as a happy accident to that security update, all of the free features disappeared for a period. And then people started complaining. And then they brought it all back. And they said, oh, whoopsie, that's not our fault. We didn't mean to do it. We just accidentally removed everybody's. It's this concept of free to run, where you could just switch it off and use it as a normal treadmill. If people don't know, Peloton comes with a £45, I believe, monthly subscription, as well as the cost of the device itself being several thousand. And then you have a screen built in, and you can watch people do spin classes and that kind of thing, or running classes, as it were, on the treadmill. But the point is, they made it so you couldn't do that without the subscription. You couldn't use it as a standard treadmill. But the games on their side is that I don't fully believe this BS about that it was an accident. The level of testing that goes on in these and QA on this software on a major release like this, even security fixes, I feel like that would probably show up. So I think what's more likely, because we've seen this with Bose, we've seen this with the likes of cricket machines as well, them removing 3 features and locking you into a paid subscription. I think it was intentional. They kind of wanted to see what would happen, and then the PR pushback that they got from it made them change their minds. So, yeah, it's just a reminder that, these, if you've got a device that relies on the cloud, is it ever truly yours?
Right. Well, you've got the other example recently of Tonal, which is like a gym that you mount to your wall. It's a huge screen. Hidden behind the screen are the weights, and then it's got these 2 robotic arms that come out, like in a gym, where you can move the arms up and down and do pretty much every exercise known to man with these 2 arms, with the weights hiding behind this big flat screen TV, which has a personal instructor walking you through all the exercise, measures all of your how hard you're pulling or pushing on all of the stuff. And if they can effectively brick it if you don't pay your subscription or whatever. It's these. I think Apple. I don't know if Apple really pioneered this, but this whole model of you're kind of not officially the owner of these systems, and they kind of lock you into these subscription type programs.
And it's worth pointing out that they have the Peloton at the moment. There are alternatives, but for their specific line of machines, they have quite the monopoly at the moment. I mean, they are ahead of the game. It's really polished. The systems are really polished. The services and the streams are really, really, really polished. And there's not many really out there. I mean, I actually know people who are developing this. The problem is, if you want to make it a seamless service, then you have to do the whole machine. I mean, I know people that are working on add-ons to traditional. So basically you have a traditional treadmill, and then you can attach the screens and the sensors to it. But you're never going to get as good a measurement and as good feedback and integration as you are from these machines, these all-in-one machines. But they are expensive as hell to produce and make. So they've got, it's going to take a while before any real competition appears, so they can do shit like this. They can mess around with the terms and conditions and everything else because there's no one else.
Yep.
That's funny how what you're describing, Carl, with regard to the object not being yours ever, resembles strangely the pay-as-you-go model in emerging markets, by which you don't own your solar panel, and if you stop repaying the loan with which you've purchased the solar panel, then it's automatically switched off.
Yeah, that's a problem. The AI, there's a headline I just tweeted out, which Poppy found originally, that AI is helping restore one of the world's masterpieces, Rembrandt's massive piece that I've seen several times. I'm just trying, I must have, it's called The Night Watch. I believe it's in Paris at the somebody remind me which museum it's
the Louvre.
The Louvre. Is it in? No, I don't think it is in the. I think it's in the other one, the more modern one.
Musée d'Orsay.
Musée d'Orsay. I think. I'm fairly sure. Anyway, so apparently they are using AI to restore missing pieces of the Night Watch, which is truly remarkable. And you kind of have to read the article that he just tweeted out to kind of understand the context. Very interesting indeed. Using AIs for these masterpieces kind of gives it's at the. They're saying it's at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and maybe that is right. That would make sense actually, being that it's a Rembrandt. But anywho, good article and interesting to see a new use case for AI. Cheryl sent in one about, speaking of solar panels, as somebody just was. how Biden gave a boost to one of Xinjiang's solar manufacturers, but really, again, as to Carl's point, it's kind of mischievous journalism, because in reality, there's half of the world's solar panels come from the Uyghur region of China, Xinjiang. Half of all solar panels from 4 factories. And essentially 3 of them have been put on a blacklist so that Americans cannot do business with them. And that's essentially caused a tremendous boost for the 4th that wasn't banned, long story short. And we'll move on. But that I will tweet out that article from the Tech News Twitter account, so you can do the deep dive on that if that's up your alley politically. And then tech legend Mark Andreessen says the rise of remote work might be here to stay. And thank you to Rhonda for this one. From MSN.com, Mark Andreessen says the rise of remote work might be more important than the internet. A permanent civilizational shift. Remote work is a permanent civilizational shift. Mark Andreessen, who, by the way, is the biggest investor in Clubhouse, among many other things, it's a consequence of the internet that may be even more important than the internet itself. Remote work has freed up opportunities for knowledge workers, which could lead to shared prosperity. And the article goes on, but Mark has a very good track record of predicting things like this. He was renowned for predicting many things, similar to the fact that software would eat the world. And boy, is that ever true today when you've got members of Congress trying to stop the 5 big tech companies from literally eating the world, just to highlight just how accurate Mark's predictions are. So when he says this is a new civilizational change, I make note of that. And I think he's right. And I think, the fact that we are all gathered from all over parts of the world to do this co-creation experiment really highlights Mark's point here. And I think the future of work will manifest itself in a similar way, especially when we do that metaverse VR type stuff that Victoria was just talking about. So imagine the Clubhouse version where we're all sitting around a virtual campfire. It gets very interesting very quickly, especially with education and productivity and work, to Mark's point. So thank you for that one, Rhonda. I just tweeted that one out. And Carl, you had another one about FBI hacking and tech contracts are vanishing from the web.
That was this morning, wasn't it? Yeah. Sorry, I haven't got the laptop in front of me.
I've got it right here. It says FBI hacking and tech contracts are vanishing from the web. A contract for a set of hacking tools and others from Coinbase have been removed from a U.S. government website.
Right, I remember this now. Yeah, so this was a company called Motherboard. I don't really know.
That's right.
I don't know a lot about them.
I do.
But they're basically monitoring a lot of sort of the FBI activities online and whatnot, and basically trying to get the scoop on it. And they have been reporting on a couple of contracts that have been appearing in various things, including information gathering, analytics, and whatnot. And there was one that came up for Coinbase. And Coinbase, not only, obviously everybody here knows that they work in crypto, but they also do some analytics stuff and everything else. But it was very, very, very quickly taken down. And the question is, what was it for? Why was it taken down so quickly? And what was Coinbase's response?
And another FBI contract disappears. Our client, Coinbase, has discovered an incorrect phone number being displayed on the following URL. An email from Cybersecurity Risk IQ to Paulson reads. Visa, kind of speaking of fintech issues, Visa agrees to buy open banking platform Tink from Stockholm for $2 billion. I personally love this because it means we've got another new unicorn in Stockholm. Fantastic. And another new fintech gets its unicorn wings. There seems to be one every day now. And this one's not from India. Sorry, Monica. Stockholm gets this one. But the Tink team is fantastic. And they've been part of my events since they were a tiny startup, actually, 8 years ago. And they've grown tremendously. And I couldn't be happier for them selling to Visa for $2 billion. And I work with the Visa, both Vink and both Tink and Visa are both partners of my events in Stockholm, believe it or not. So great to see Visa buying Tink for $2 billion. The Swedish platform connects 3,400 banks across Europe. Transaction to be funded by Visa's existing cash on hand. And this acquisition is a sign of our commitment to Europe. Charlotte Hogg, Chief Executive Officer of Visa Europe, said in a statement, in Tink, we have found a strong partner with whom we can accelerate innovation in open banking. And Stockholm is indeed a really strong fintech city for a really unique reason, which I will share with you now. This is actually kind of worth noting because the Swedish banks, Swedbank, Danske Bank, which is actually Danish, but Nordea and SEB are very open to partnering with startups in a way that American banks are not. I say this as an American working in Sweden in tech. And this is also, by the way, why Spotify and Beats and Tidal and all of the music sharing apps that succeeded all came from Sweden and not from Los Angeles, where I'm from, where my friends were trying to do similar apps. Because the record labels in Sweden were willing to partner with these futuristic music file sharing apps, and the American record labels were not. And it's because Swedes see technology as the path forward. They don't see it as an enemy. And they don't see tech startups that are innovating in their space as enemies. They see them as partners. And so Swedes, with their brilliant approach to collaborating and not fighting, by the way, it's why they haven't had a war in hundreds of years, or a fight, any kind of war for a very, very long time, because they intentionally avoid conflict at all costs, and they like to collaborate, and they don't see their competitors as competitors. They see them as collaborators and partners, and that's why the banks in Sweden are embracing the fintechs, and that's why the fintechs are popping off like crazy in Sweden, and that we've now got Klarna is the second biggest fintech in the world coming out of Sweden, and many others. And now Tink just gets acquired for $2 billion, and they joined the unicorn list. We now have 20 unicorns in Stockholm of less than 1 million people, which is unicorns per million, puts us right in par with Silicon Valley and far above everybody else. But it's an interesting point why the music tech companies came out of Sweden, why the fintechs are coming out of Sweden, because of this culture of collaborating with the startups, embracing the startups as partners, and not perceiving them as existential threats in the same way that the American banks do or whatnot. So it's
Tyler, you know why that's the case?
Why?
It's because it seems that they understand what the actual mission is, right? If your mission is to deliver something to benefit the people,
right?
Of course, any of your competitors, anyone who's helping you meet that goal is actually a collaborator. But if your goal is to, personally keep everything for yourself, then everyone else is a competitor. So I totally, it's like not understanding. It's not a customer thing, but not understanding.
Yeah,
I'm having a brain fart.
Yeah,
now,
no,
but that's so beautiful.
Yeah. Their interests are aligned because they have their missions are aligned, which is we want to delight customers. Oh wow, you're delighting our customers more than we are. We should partner. Yeah, it's something along this. Yeah, Kieran.
So Tyler, is that why you think that China is going after all of these big companies now, because they just feel they're no longer a partner? They're just trying to break away from the kind of the basic understanding they had when they started. Right, it's kind of reflecting, right?
You mean why is the government trying to force the partnership?
Why the Chinese? I mean, why the Chinese are going after? Look, I mean, a Pinduoduo, right? 5 years, almost $1 trillion company, Amazon, but now it's getting out of control. They just see that it's becoming a threat to the amount of control the Chinese could have, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is a combination of envy and fear to a degree, and we can point directly to Xi Jinping's words when the very first visit he made to any company in all of China when he took over was to Tencent, the biggest tech company. And he specifically told the leader of Tencent, Pony Ma, oh my, you have a really remarkable mastery of collecting data of all of our citizens. This would be of tremendous value to the government. ... Foreshadow. And here we are. In the last 48 hours, the headline is Alibaba Pays essentially being forced to hand over all of that juicy, credit data of all of the shopping habits of all 1 billion Chinese people under the what's claimed by the article to make a credit score, which one can probably assume will be directly tied to the social credit score as well in China. So it's also because China now has their own currency, but that currency has no credit history, no usage history, because the usage history is owned by Alipay. Though I assume it's because they want to kind of merge those things. And that data is incredibly valuable to governments, as Xi Jinping correctly said himself. And I think
And
governments,
Tyler,
it's not a China issue, though. This is a global issue. The
I was about
governments
to say.
are now all waking up simultaneously to realize, oh, fuck, these tech companies, this data stuff's important, isn't it? That's what the politicians just woke up and said to themselves like a week ago. You know what, guys? Tell me if I'm wrong. But I think all of my purchase history data, I think that's kind of valuable. You know, I think this medical data, like everything I eat, everything I do, everywhere I go, everyone I know, every email I send, everything about me, this data thing, this data stuff, there might be something to this, to all this data stuff. I think these tech companies might be onto something. And now they realize, yeah, indeed, these tech companies are going to clean their fucking clocks and take over their medical system, their education system, their insurance companies, and the infrastructure of providing the internet to everybody and getting
And a
all
fundamental threat to their own power, right?
right.
Because they're politicians in the accumulation of power. And then now what they have is in different countries, to Karen's perspective on China, but on every other country, they have different leverage, right? And different tools. China has what it's got, right? It can do it China speed, the way it's doing. US has legislation and, Congress and different ways to kind of deal with that. India has very interesting. They can use big business. They can actually buy uh, other big business players to help them in the process. So they all have different tools. Now they've realized what you've just said, right? Like, shit, there's data. This data thing is going to take our control. We might not be as powerful anymore. People with the data will be. Shit, we better get the data. We better
That's
work with
right.
the data, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick one, Tyler.
Yeah.
This is Michelle speaking. I know the conversation went more global, but I had a question regarding the scalability of those fintech in Sweden, because you mentioned Klarna, I think, and all the others.
Yeah.
But why weren't they able to scale Swish like more globally? Do you have any
I don't think they
insight
really
of that?
aspired to. It was more just like the Scandinavians enjoyed having it, and that was it.
Okay, that's interesting because I think that could have been another Revolut or something like
Oh,
that.
totally. I just it didn't seem like that didn't seem like the aspiration.
Tyler, also Alipay is not just in China; it's in other countries
I
as well,
said that's
correct?
exactly what I said.
And so it's this takes the data and data collection to another level in terms of spies and espionage and collecting information from other countries. And look what happened with Donald Trump and TikTok, for
Yeah,
example.
you took the thought out of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
so to Tyler, I was gonna add then, of course, if you've been following this room for a while, Q in Nicholas with his self-sovereign identity and data, we might see the rise of more startups that say, "Hey, we're doing this, and the users own their data." So if the government comes to these startups, or, and say, "Hey, can I have the data?" You say, "Well, actually, you need to go to the users themselves because we don't own this data anymore." So we might actually start seeing that more and more. It can be Q and Nicholas's identity side, but it could be more future tech startups. They're going to start to say that we don't want to hold data. I mean, I talked to a startup today this morning in Africa, and they were like, "We don't want to touch the data. We feel that's just not what we want to do going forward. We just think it's going to be tough for us to swallow that."
Yeah.
So I'm curious
And
if you think
Twitter
that's going to be like
has
a new trend.
and Twitter has spoken about wanting to do a decentralized version to kind of mitigate against the risk of what happened with Nigeria.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm no doubt Jack Dorsey fantasizes about telling these governments. I mean, by the way, Twitter, all the social apps who allow citizens to share their views publicly, of which Clubhouse is one as well. But all of these sites all have citizens saying things that governments don't like. And these governments are sending in requests to all of these apps thousands of times a day saying, please take all of this off. We don't like this. If you want to keep doing business in our country, take this off, take this off, take this off. And you can imagine after countless days of countless requests to do all of this stuff, you as the founder of the company start fantasizing about a way to tell them to go F themselves, which is a fully decentralized version of your app, which they cannot shut off. So there's no doubt that Dorsey is dreaming of a decentralized Twitter. I think that's kind of clear. But interesting, this headline right here: Pakistan and encouraging Microsoft to expand its footprint in Pakistan. That's the headline today. From Islamabad, Prime Minister Imran Khan spoke with Bill Gates, co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, over telephone, the Prime Minister's office said Thursday. Both exchanged views on the ongoing polio eradication campaign in the country, as well as Pakistan's response to the public health challenges arising from COVID-19. The Prime Minister appreciated the work of the foundation for the social economic uplift of the most disadvantaged people around the globe, especially for promoting universal access to health services and combating infectious disease. He expressed gratitude in particular for his partnership with Pakistan to rid the country of polio. And where's the line where they say bring Microsoft to Pakistan? But the headline does. So somewhere in this article, the Prime Minister encourages Microsoft to expand footprint in Pakistan. And thank you to Faraz for this one. And this is the catch-22, is it not? Microsoft's being hit over the head in the U.S. and developing countries are like, come on over here. We'd love some of that tech action over here. So it's a funny
And
game.
the thing is, Tyler, also there's only two countries in the world still have polio, which is Pakistan and Afghanistan. It's quite interesting that Bill Gates is he's a big fan of eradicating that thing. So I'm sure.
Yeah, that's one of his life missions that he hopes to accomplish in his lifetime. Which is, by the way,
And that's the two countries. That's the two countries still have.
Yeah.
Also, recently, Pakistan was talking about creating like a collection of little spots to become a tech hub.
Yes.
So this aligns with that.
That's right. Yeah, we read that. Thank you, Mahogany. That was another headline 6 hours ago that they're working on creating their own little tech hubs, which I think is that usually is a super cool thing. And it's, to me, it's usually an indicator of somebody in the government is a geek, or at least understands the value of geeks. And in the UK's case, it was David Cameron who wanted to do Tech City. And I was rushing to read that headline that Mahogany just reminded us about, because the CEO of Tech City was in the audience. Eric Vanderklees was sitting just below the raise your hand or the friends of the speaker section.
May I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
So for the first time in the country's history, there's a large number of geeks in administration. And they're all ex-Google, ex-Microsoft, ex-Big Tech. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Same reason why Estonia is just popping off, by the way. Like, you get these young, geeky kids that actually start taking roles, in the government, and next thing you know, they start making some real fast tech-embracing type progress, which is aspiring to see. Just a cute little headline that now junk food TV adverts will be banned after 9 p.m., so you're not loading up on carbs before you go to bed. And that's coming from the BBC News. Ministers say that children must cut down on products high in fat, salt, and sugar amid rising obesity. And that's one way for a government to deal with it, I guess. No more ads after 9 p.m. You should be asleep, not eating Pop-Tarts.
They're not watching
Can we
TV
talk
anyway.
Can we talk a little bit? Sorry, Cal. I apologize.
I was just commenting on that. The kids are doing something else, actually. They're not watching TV.
Yeah, they're playing games, yeah? Go ahead, Frost.
Can we just hit back on the big tech situation a little bit, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
I don't just want to focus on the U.S. portion. I want to look at it from a global perspective, right? And I wanted to comment earlier when you guys were talking, but there was a lot of people talking. So even if you break up these big tech companies, and you look at it from an antitrust legislation perspective, or you break them up into different verticals, etc. Regardless of that, you have to look at breaking up big capital too. And I think a lot of the individuals in the audience and on the panel will understand this, because for the first time in history over the past decade, what you've seen big tech do is come up with the likes of, for example, Google Ventures Amazon Ventures, Amazon PE, and similar in similar fashion. All of the others have done it too. So even if you break them up, what you've got happening there is they have co-investment rights or investment rights into the the next wave that's coming in tech.
Yeah.
So whether you break them up or not, they already have control of the future through co-investment rights, and they already have asymmetrical deal flow and asymmetrical data coming to them.
Yeah.
Whether you break them up today in the existing space or not, they control the future anyway.
Well, part of
And
one of the bills is their ability to merge or acquire, though.
well, it doesn't matter whether they acquire them, Tyler. The part is, even if they get a board seat is enough to give them asymmetrical information on data,
Yeah, they can get the
and that's
data.
sufficient.
Yeah, well, no, because they can't benefit that much. Well, they could invest in it, right? They can't own it or merge with it. Yeah, that's a point. They could get 49% of it or something. Yeah.
But the thing is, Tyler, one of the things you need to think about is that US, the consumer spending contributes 70% to the GDP. China is only 30%.
Yeah.
Right. So the thing is, you got to think of it as China worry is that, you don't want, US kind of, the companies coming in, find another way to suck that. So again, it's about protecting the economy, right?
Yep.
They want to double. So that's a part
Yeah.
because, these guys, US is monsters. I mean, they already, they done what they need to do in the US.
Yeah.
Now they're looking outward, right? I think it's a China way of putting the barriers because it's huge.
Yeah. So one of the other mega stories at the moment is one that everyone keeps sending in. So I'll just tweet it out right now. This is, in fact, the biggest story in the tech sphere at this very moment. Is there's so many interesting, very suspiciously timed headlines coming out today under the umbrella of big tech and their battle with Capitol Hill, with these 5 bills aimed at limiting their powers. So it's a real interesting coincidence to see that Amazon's announcing they're going huge into green tech, and this one, and that Google announced they're not going to charge developers 30% anymore. It'll be 15% for app developers who are making music or media apps, essentially downplaying and kind of removing some of the pressure points that they are going to be faced with. And here's another one. Perfect example. Google delays their cookie blocking privacy ban for nearly 2 more years. And this was one of the accusations, that you guys are hoarding all of this data. And indeed, Google was going to kill the browser cookies, because Facebook used those browser cookies. Everyone used those browser cookies, by the way. And then Google said, you know what? No more cookies for you, nobody. We're keeping all the cookies. It's going to be a cookie feast for Google and Google alone. Apple's doing the same. And we're keeping all this data for ourselves. It's been fun, everybody. No more cookies for you. And that is all about, all of this data hoarding and self-enriching and monopolizing and etc. And sure enough, what an interesting coincidentally timed headline, that Google now is deciding that it's going to wait 2 more years before they start all of this cooking blocking fun. What a coincidence that this headline would come out today. So interesting to see how they can in kind of turn on a dime under the heat of all of these this voting action that's happening in the House and in the Senate. But it still has to go to the Senate. But before it gets to the Senate, these tech companies are already starting to remove some of the thorns from the roses, so that when it gets voted on, they can say, "Oh no, everything that you're accusing us of, we fixed." Oh no, what is that about? You're worried about all that cookie stuff? No, we fixed that. Oh well, the same day you were brought it up on, no problem. We fixed all that stuff. We're good. It's all good. Everything's good.
Hey,
So,
hey, Tyler, this is Kenneth somewhere. I
hey,
don't
Ken.
where I'm on the platform. Hey, I think I sent you that thing on Google or
Yeah.
sent you some message on.
Yep.
I think one of the things though the public doesn't understand, a lot of politicians not understanding, they actually thought Google sunsetting the cookie feature was an enhancement of privacy, like cookies would go away, as
Right.
opposed to they would just monopolize cookies. So I think that there's the perception of it is and even the way it's being reported is somewhat different.
Yep.
It's almost like Google's going to extend the privacy invasion for 2 years.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, this is where that's why I could thank you, Ken. You're clearly a geek who gets it, and the geeks can understand what's the game that's really going on here. And there is a lot of PR posturing, exactly to your point. And in this case, it's not just press relations posturing; it's political relations posturing, which is really Justin's expertise, right, Justin? So it's like. They're trying to create narratives and dance on both sides of this, play the good guy as part of this action, when in reality it's very self-serving. But the same thing I mean, this has been tech's kind of main game, operatus mandi, OM, from the beginning, which is, I mean, since day one. It's Google. It's free. It's so fantastic. We charge you nothing. Just enter in all of your thoughts into this little box, and it's all free. We're going to give you something for nothing. No, it's not nothing. You're giving us something incredibly valuable. By the way, here's Gmail. It's free. Actually, it's not free. Everything you ever type in there is being mined and used against you. But here's Google Docs and Google Sheets and all this, and all that data is being mined again. And here's a Chrome browser. It's free. No, it's not free. There's a lot of strings attached to that free browser. Everything that they're doing is, under the guise of, we're just helping people. We're just incredible helpers. We're just helping, little helpers. But never mind what we're doing with all this data that we're collecting. And essentially, you could perceive it from a cynical perspective that everything that they design is actually designed with the intention in mind of collecting particular datas, and then they think of the product of how to get that data. And that's especially true with Facebook's new smartwatch. What's the reason for the smartwatch? Do you really think they want you to start walking more? No, they want that juicy, sweet data that they need, right, for their own purposes. And what's the best way to get that data? We could make a phone, but shit, Apple and Google already got the phones. That's going to be hard. And we tried that once before, and it didn't really work. Us old geeks remember the old Facebook phone that came and left in a poof. But a smartwatch, well, if we could drive the price down on that thing and subsidize it like we do the Oculus headsets, because we know we're going to get a lot of valuable data from that device, so we could really cut the price in half, make it super attractive, put a camera on it. How much valuable data could we get from that device? And I'm painting the picture that, is it possible that they actually come up with these products with the data that they are going to collect in mind as part of the product itself? Possibly. But especially when you start looking at medtech, why are they interested in medtech? Is it because they want to make sure that you lose weight, or that they really care about the obesity epidemic? Or is it because that data is just incredibly useful as an addition to their already growing mountains of data? Would it really enrich their data set? What's the most valuable data they could go after right now? Medtech data. So what is their real motive for getting into medtech? The data, or because they just want to help you, and they want to stop diabetes? I think it's pretty clear. Anyway, so it's a game, and the politicians get looped into it because the tech companies are saying, we're gonna fix the education system. We're gonna fix the medical system. We've been waiting for the government to fix the medical system forever. Obamacare this and whatever that, and single payer copay. It's a mess. Don't worry, we got it. We're gonna fix it. Done. Matter of fact, we already fixed it for our 1 million Amazon employees. Here's all the data. Look at everyone's happier. Everyone's healthier. Everyone's losing weight. And we've got all this data to show that it's working great. We already got it on 1 million Amazon employees and their family members, which is now 3 million folks. We took the liberty of letting them share it with their family members. Hope you don't mind, governments. But it's working great on your citizens. So how do you feel about us expanding this out, say, across the state of California? Maybe, we just do this in America before we head over to Europe, Asia, because we're going to take over the goddamn planet. We're going to suck up all this beautiful medtech data, and wait till you see what we can do with this medtech data. Oh boy. You thought your Google searches were accurate now? You thought the ads you were getting were a little surprisingly accurate now? Oh boy. Oh boy. You've seen nothing yet. Nothing.
Tyler, can
Hi,
I?
Tyler. Oh,
Sorry, go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
Ladies
Go
first,
What's up,
ahead.
please.
Messi?
No, I was just gonna say that the exact thing that you are saying, they are making it global. The sixth Google Startup Accelerator of Africa. 15 startups that have been selected. Pretty much all of them are in medtech, edtech, and what is that? The e-commerce. So it just shows you how they are systematically already globally just positioning themselves. It just is amazing.
Wow, Messi, you just make me realize I've been contacted last week by someone at Google Startup asking me if I know of healthcare related early stage startup in Africa.
You have it. There you have it. I have
Yeah, yeah.
15 companies.
Oh,
Sorry, can I
and
just?
they're reducing their headquarters
Oh
med
yeah.
tech people, right?
Oh,
Oh
the
yeah,
the
yeah,
headline in the
yeah.
last 48 hours was, "Oh, we're actually reducing. Google Health is actually winding down." Was the headline in the face of the fact that
No.
it's now being revealed that this is happening? It's anyway.
Yeah, it's also interesting. I've been getting those emails as well, and one of the emails I got was that reports offer you a Google Cloud credit. I wonder why that is, so they
Oh
can
my
suck you
God.
into their infrastructure.
I'm a,
Oh yeah, it's 100. I think it's $3 million fund for African entrepreneurs, and plus, and it's non-dilutive financing, which always sounds like, oh, it's free money. Oh yeah, it's free money, and that would give you our credits into our cloud, so you can suck up all your data to our cloud.
This is a great point Mabana is raising. I just want to make sure everyone understands it because he's a geek. So there's the cloud where you as a app developer upload all of your app and all of your data into the Google cloud or the Amazon cloud or Microsoft's cloud, which they call Azure. Those are pretty much the three big clouds that startups use. And so what's happening is Google's looking for med tech companies approaching them and saying, "Hey, how would you like to host that stuff?" Because it costs money to put your stuff in these clouds. They charge you money, like Dropbox charges you to store your files. It's a similar thing. That's a cloud for your personal thing. Dropbox is kind of like the cloud for your personal stuff. But AWS is Amazon's, Google has Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure is for companies, especially like
And
startups.
Alibaba as well. They will make it. Yeah.
Alibaba has Alibaba Cloud as well. And they're trying to go international, but that's going to be quite challenging being a Chinese company trying to, you can imagine how the Europeans and Americans feel about putting their
So
data into
Tyler,
Chinese clouds.
this comes back exactly to what I was saying. Whether you hit them with antitrust or whatever, vis-a-vis Google Ventures, Amazon PE, etc., they have already done this. Vis-a-vis these venture partners, vis-a-vis these investment firms that they've set up, they already have these controlling rights on these companies where they can. But they control access to this information in the future vis-a-vis board rights, vis-a-vis board chairs, vis-a-vis
I see.
asymmetrical
Yeah, I got you.
information.
I get you for
Right?
us.
So
Yeah.
No, it reinforces the point for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
they've got their tentacles
But yeah,
deep
but
in the next tech.
yeah,
so
right.
So
The thing is, Tyler, so in the last 10, 15 years in academia, so what they've been doing is that every top universities, Cambridge, Oxford, Imperial College, so every
Kieran, brother,
project,
finish. May I just quickly finish, brother? So what I'm
yeah.
trying to say is legislation won't accomplish anything. It doesn't accomplish anything. They've already got what they need. They have control over the future.
So
Yeah.
they've
I'm
already
finished.
been very early on in academia as well. So basically, every project, whether it's a healthcare, medtech, if you look at Imperial College, a lot of this COVID stuff, Amazon, AWS, any research we do, all they do is they just give us a free, they just take all the data. They've been doing that for the last 10 years.
So I just want to highlight what Mabwana said again, though, is that Google in this case is offering free cloud for medtech companies because once that all of your data is in their cloud, well, guess what? They have access to that data. So why are they offering free cloud to medtechs in Africa? It's a great point that he's making there. I want to jump into the other big headlines that are happening around the world today and take advantage of all the smart folks on stage to share their inputs. And you in the audience, if if you are related, and somebody just had their hand up, we brought them up on stage, William. If this is up your alley, feel free to chime in. And what else is going on? Carl, you had the article about a new rocket mining system blast through the moon rock to reach ice, which is kind of an interesting one, but I think we can kind of just take that one at face value. Patreon. Oh, by the way, on this 30% tax that Apple was charging apps, there was one notable app that wasn't being taxed, which was Patreon. Renjent sent in the article from The Verge that Patreon doesn't have a special contract with Apple to avoid Apple's 30% tax. So FanHouse, Patreon's very small startup competitor, wants to know why it can't get the same exception. And then Rhonda sent in an article about your next Uber could have wings. Not Uber literally, although perhaps actually, because we had a very special guest speaker exactly 24 hours ago here, thanks to our friend Faraz on stage, who brought in the chairman of Volocopter, who's really leading the vertical takeoff and landing future of inner city mobility for humans and freight. They can transfer freight up to 200 kilograms, 400 pounds, in their volocopter. This fully electric vertical takeoff and landing, fully electric, and can be done autonomously or with a pilot. They're kind of hedging on all sides of that equation. But no doubt they're making great progress. They've done an incredibly huge partnership with Geely, one of China's largest hardware and especially car manufacturers, which, by the way, owns Volvo in Sweden, which itself is a leader in the electric and autonomous space. And it's wild, and what a pleasure that was to do. I think we had about 30 minutes, kind of uninterrupted Q&A with them, and thank you again to Faraz for that. But indeed, your next Uber could have wings and or propellers, because there's quite a few players fighting in that space, including Hyundai and others. But Volocopter certainly seems to have a really good position. It was announced in the last couple of days. They are going to do the transportation for the next Olympics. There's the Tokyo Olympics happening now, and then there's the Winter Olympics in around Beijing, and then in the next Summer Games is in Paris, where Volocopter has partnered to do transportation in Paris during the Olympics with their volocopters, which I cannot wait to try that out. But apparently they're live in Dubai, and Ken, who joins us on stage, has even participated in a volocopter in Dubai. Carl, this one is my favorite of the day, although it's a cleverly hidden little one. Your mouse movements can reveal your behavior. And it's...
Yeah, I thought you'd like that one.
Yeah, this is cool. So, talking about your juicy data, how about the way you move your mouse? That's all we need. Thank you very much. While this has many interesting applications, mouse movements can also reveal sensitive information about the users, such as their age. Yeah, they can tell your age from how you use your mouse and or your gender. And I'm sure it will get more intelligent in as the algorithms endlessly improve exponentially as they do. And before you know it, it'll be able to read your damn thoughts from your damn mouse.
Want me to unpack that a little?
You can, but let's highlight also that the keyboard identification is also in place with companies in Sweden like Socio Behaviosec, which can identify you by the way you click on your keyboard on your laptop or your phone. And that's been around for quite a while, actually. So the combination of these things, of your mouse and your keyboard and your swiping on your keyboard, they don't even need your face print to open your phone, honestly. So it's interesting. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, so I was just going to point out that the technology behind this is actually really, really, really old. Like, I mean, in tech terms, you know, 5 or so years old.
A decade.
Yeah, exactly. You've been able to do this on websites for a really, really long time. And when you go to any website, any major website, every time you move your mouse, wherever you're moving it on the screen, it's recorded. And there are a lot of services that have made a lot of money from this, things like Mouseflow and Hotjar and Blackbox and all of that. And you can integrate them with just a couple of lines of code, and then boom, every time somebody goes to your site, it's everything that they move when they hover over a button, and anything like that is captured, and then it goes through a series of algorithms, and you can get reports and KPIs. You can see heat maps, you can play the recordings back, and you can literally watch how a person moves their mouse and interacts with the keyboard on your screen. It's recording the session, and this is a staple in big tech and optimizing how you build UI and UX. What these researchers did is they wanted to look at, what else could you figure out beyond just the scary of monitoring somebody who thinks that they're doing it almost anonymously. What else can you get from it? And these researchers found that obviously you can detect all the, the metadata that we've been talking about, like age and gender, and probably a hell of a lot of other things as well. And then they developed an extension to try and fight it. So there are a couple of extensions out there that you can kind of install that disable this, but they're a pain in the ass to install, and it's safe to assume that any major website that you use is doing this in some sort of capacity and has been doing for a very, very long time.
Hey,
And
Carl, this is Al.
this is also using credit scoring.
Is it?
Yeah.
In what way?
On your phone, depending on how you type, the speed at which you type on your keyboard, or how you fill a form on your mobile phone in emerging markets, that can be used for credit scoring because of all the reasons Carlos mentioned. You can infer your
Oh.
age, your level of
Ah.
education. Do you copy paste, or do you re-enter for a second time your email
Oh.
address? So yeah, that's using credit scoring.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Carl, this is Al. I wanted to know what's the level of accuracy? I know they've been doing it for years. I know we use something sort of like that with the monitoring and stuff that I do. But what's the level of accuracy with all that other data they're collecting with like identifying age and your other habits?
Well, it's kind of new. This is the first bit of research that I've seen where somebody's actually having a look at this and seeing what can be done about it. I mean, I don't even know if... I mean, I think it's safe to say that the likes of Google and Facebook and whatnot, or anybody else that's using this technology and they have the kind of computing power to then get all the extra metadata, are doing it. But this is the first time that I've really seen it highlighting anything beyond how a user interacts with your UI and your UX. So I don't really know, but I can tell you that the data that it captures about, how you move around their UI and what you click on and how many times and how long it takes you and that kind of thing, that is accurate as can be. It's basically like the person was looking over your shoulder as you're using their website.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Lovely. So,
Yeah.
other happy news. Nicholas, one of our resident VR experts from Stockholm, Nicholas Johansson, sent in a really cool article that children reporting significantly lower pain by playing VR games while dressing burn wounds, which is recorded as being one of the most painful things in the possible in the spectrum of human pain. Dressing burn wounds is the far extreme on the level 10 of pain, and so children are reporting significantly lower pain while playing VR games, especially if you could start to optimize the game to specifically to this purpose of minimizing the sensation of pain. So it's no doubt next time you go to the dentist for children, they'll likely have a VR headset for the kids to use. Really interesting concepts about how to trick, in a clever way, kind of trick the brain. It's a really interesting use case. So thank you to Nicholas for that one. And then someone just sent in a DEM version that Microsoft Windows 11 was announced essentially today, and they had a big live stream event. And it was, their big annual event for their Windows 11 launch. And the live stream crashes with a blue screen of death as Microsoft decides to not use YouTube, and their streaming system crashed. Which that's not a good thing when you're doing. Just a quick note for those non-geeks out there. Let me unpack this for you. If you're a big tech company and you're doing a big live stream launch event like that you spent millions of dollars developing, and this is your once a year huge event where you're launching your biggest product, your operating system once a year, that's not good. It's not a good thing when that live stream crashes. It's not a good look. It doesn't make you look good, and people laugh. People laugh at you when you do that, like I'm laughing right now. That's unfortunate, but very funny
Hey,
nonetheless.
Tyler, that's a huge faux pas on their part because they're showcasing something that failed in front of the audience.
Yes.
But can I circle back to the biometric stuff that you guys were just talking about with the keyboard clicks and the how you fill out forms and stuff? And Carl saying they can capture that data with huge accuracy. the question is what algorithms they're using to weight people or measure people. I mean, if you are just capturing my clicks and deciding it's Jen, that's one thing. But if you're using how I fill out forms to determine credit ratings, that's an algorithm behind that. And how has that algorithm been developed? Because that's where the bias comes in. Is was that developed based on past people doing it, who designed that
Yeah.
algorithm, and that can
Uh-huh.
create huge problems there. Like, what are they using to say? Like, some people
Exactly.
want to, if you look, right, exactly. So you might look at it and go, did you do what's more advanced, which is to maybe copy or autofill, or did you type it in again? And there's a lot of reasons people will go in any direction, but it's making determinations, and credit scores and those types of things are hugely impactful on people and ongoing society. Again, because that continues existing bias, it just carries it forward and programs it in, right? So it has to be looked at. That's why you have all these AI ethicists, and that field is growing so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's
So.
increasing the bias against left-handed people. That's just
Yeah, but you know what? They're inferior, so that's
that's
fair,
what I'm
right? I
saying.
mean, these are
Well,
things
I
that are.
mean that
Oh
part's a
no,
known
shots
fact.
fired.
That's just a fact, and the
But
data
no.
proves it now.
Those
So
are facts. Those are just the
that's just the
facts.
receipts. So
And people who are ambidextrous, when you can use both, because I can use both.
well, no, that improves your
That
credit
puts you.
score
That's your
tremendously.
elite. Then you're
Yeah,
elite.
you're
That
super.
gives you
That
the
you're
elite.
privileged.
Yeah,
That's privilege.
it's exponential.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can
So
I just add on to something just very, very quickly on
sure.
what Jennifer said and then move on? Is that we quite often look at the Facebooks and the Googles and whatnot and we say, well, they're gathering all this data and they've got all the supercomputers necessary and the algorithms necessary to crunch this and get some sort of predictive model from it. But now what we're seeing is things like what we've been talking about with Stripe, for instance, where you've got external services that are offering, one line, two line, single click integration where you can just send this off and then they compute it all for you. So you as the small website, you don't need to do this yourself because you can send it off and you can get it all done for you, all the algorithms and the analytics done for you with this data, and then they send it all back. So you've kind of seen this a little bit with Google Analytics, for instance, where they do all the heavy work for you, and then you get access to all the data. So don't think that it's like it's the car sales website that's doing it themselves. They're not. They're just we can integrate it with this. We use Wix. Wix offers this integration, whatever, and we'll give you some nice KPIs as feedback on what your users are doing. So it's very accessible to anybody who wants to dip their toes in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carl, I was going to say, if anyone looks at this stuff, all those guys are powered on the back end by these services from these larger companies, right? And so if you look at it, no one should think that their data is going just to the car salesman at the front end where they're buying the car or the beauty supply store or whatever. They're all powered in multiple ways. They're either on AWS, as you say, or using Stripe payment services or any other Google Analytics, and those guys are
E-
using that data to train and build their
Yeah.
algorithms, and
Even the form
it's
itself.
disclosed.
Often,
Right,
the person who builds the
right,
website, they're using a third party app to develop the form, and that
right.
form
So
company is starting to do really clever analysis of how people engage with the forms.
right, and just to put that, so two things from there. One is people think their data stays just with that server. All websites, it makes sense, are powered or using third party tools. So look at the privacy policies. They all say we can share these with third parties to provide our service, and
It's
that's an incredibly broad
well.
statement. That just means everybody. And the other one
Let's make it
will
even a little
also
more
to
clear.
bring that.
These forum websites that are essentially free, and you get the data from the form from the people filling out the data on your website. So how is this forum company profiting, by the way? What is it? What business are they in exactly? If they collect the data from your customer, give you the data that they entered in the form, what's the business? The business is they get all kinds of really interesting data from all of these people, and they know their geography, they know everything that they entered about themselves, they know their age. They're collecting all kinds of
Well,
crazy data,
they're what they're going to do is follow, and
and then
Tyler,
they,
that's sort
yeah,
of high level stuff. They're going to
yeah,
follow your track. They're going to go. Did they go 3 deep, five
yes, they,
deep? How long did they stay on a page?
yeah,
And if people to understand where this goes, back to that movie Coded Bias, it's if you think they're influencing you to buy something, it's called influence. Maybe it's influencing you to buy something that they know you're going to want at a certain time, so they're going to deliver to that person who types very slowly and doesn't know how to spell payday loan things, assuming that that's what they need, or if it's someone who's on an Apple Mac, which they can tell, and who types quickly and because their Google Mail says that they want to go to Antigua, they're going to start sending them high-end vacation properties. But the other one is it's influence, and if it's influence to buy something, it can be influence to vote in a certain way, it can be influence to think in a certain way, influence to it's a lot deeper than I think people
Yeah,
generally take it at
it's
face value. And then to bring that back to Faraz's point with what the venture companies are doing in guiding the future, it's not just guiding them to get their data. These guys decide what technology they're investing in, and that's the technology that's going to make it, right? So that's where that stuff comes back, and these people have a lot more power than you might think, and
right.
going forward.
Precisely the mega narrative point I'm trying to drive here, which is these tech companies that are masters at data management have an absolute unfair advantage when they go into compete with the insurance companies, for example, who don't know any of this stuff, right? They have a blank form that's doing no analytics of any kind, and they're just having meetings and having coffee to figure out things with based on no data whatsoever. It's like nuclear war versus somebody with a slingshot. It's not even a fair fight. So anyway, um, the best article I've seen in quite a while, Poppy found, and it's the Brookings Institute giving credit to Boston Consulting Group (BCG) about the number of tech startups securing funding in Africa. I just tweeted it out, and you have to see the graph from 2015 to 2020. Africa has gone from 55 startups getting funded in 2015 to 359 startups getting funded in 2020, nearly one a day. That is a improvement of 46%, while the rest of the planet is growing in terms of startup investments at 8% globally. Africa is now growing at 46%. So that helps validate on a data point my belief that Africa is the future growth opportunity for tech and for tech investments and for entrepreneurs, and it's the next frontier. It's the future. It's an exciting time, and Mobana is brilliant for being there, and I think he's at the right place at the right time, and he might have been early. And that's good. You gotta earn your spot there, and I'm eager to go check it out. But by the way, it's like right now, India is just exploding with unicorns at the moment because they're just a few years ahead on this front. But yeah, interesting article. I just tweeted it out, and you can see the data yourself. But it confirms what I've been thinking. It's a great article. Bank of Israel to use Ethereum for their digital shekel. A lot of people excited about this. All of the crypto geeks. This adds a bit of credibility because Israel is not a joke, especially when it comes to tech. In fact, they're really one of the global leaders on the tech front. And the fact that they've chosen Ethereum for their digital cryptocurrency, their own digital shekel, is quite an interesting endorsement indeed, and quite unique. Like everyone else is looking at other solutions, and Ethereum in some could make a whole lot of sense. Ben, you have a comment on that one? Is Ben with us? Or Ame? No? Okay. We'll wait till they get back and circle back on that one. Jeff Bezos' 2021 Space Odyssey, where he's going up in Blue Origin, and he sold a seat for several $1,000,000 to a passenger, and his actual brother, are all heading to space. But it's a risk too far for insurers. Launching one of the richest individuals on Earth into orbit has proven a leap too far for insurers who are not ready to price the risk of losing the world's most valuable man. Which I guess he's okay with. Interesting headline though. Hotels on rails that Rhonda sent in, and I'll send this one back out. And I loved this one from CNN Travel about Hotels on Rails plans for a new network of European sleeper trains unveiled, and they look like hotel rooms, like really hotel rooms, but in a train. So you sleep as you go. And this one just hit me personally, and maybe other people in the room as well. If you ever traveled around Europe in the old days before the internet using the Eurorail pass, intentionally scheduling, you had unlimited. Maybe this is just an American thing that me and my friends did after high school, but it's perhaps one of the most memorable moments of my life, honestly. is as an American's first trip to Europe and having the Euro pass and being able to use all of the trains in Europe unlimited, for a fixed price for 1 month. You intentionally start planning your trips so that you sleep on the trains at night. So you take intentionally long, 10-hour trips so that you can sleep on the train. And now these European sleeper trains are really getting the kind of luxury resort treatment, which kind of makes me excited to try this whole thing all over again. Anyway, so I'm just tweeting that out so you can see what these hotels on wheels look like. But it's an interesting concept about the future of living, because in and of itself, there's a bit of a problem with housing generally, and the idea that how we will live in the future, there is all kinds of new innovations happening around the kind of capsule hotel living that was popularized in Japanese hotels is become very common in Hong Kong. A lot of Hong Kongers live in nearly capsule size apartments, believe it or not. And the idea of shared capsule living is actually starting to boom in Los Angeles at the moment, and San Francisco during the tech boom, before everyone started leaving because the rental prices were getting so outrageous in Silicon Valley that people were starting to share and build capsules into apartments, and you would have 10 people sharing 10 different capsules in one apartment. And that, I think, that could become a bit of a global trend in inner cities of kind of world capitals, where like Hong Kong, where it already is, but in other parts of the world as well. So stay tuned on that one.
Actually, I was living in Hong Kong,
Yep.
and it's really, really tight.
Yeah.
But because of the pandemic, and also they had the protest,
Yep.
hotel prices were like demolished.
Yeah.
So I moved into hotel.
Exactly. A lot of people did
Saved
that.
me like
Yeah.
60-70%. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, thank goodness.
One of my
So I lived in a hotel for like 1 year
So did one of
at
my very
least.
best friends, Pontus, in Hong Kong, who lives over near the Bibo restaurant, kind of the hidden restaurant. And he moved into the Holiday Inn because the hotel prices went to next to nothing, because there was no one was allowed to come into Hong Kong during the pandemic and the protests. Everything was shut down. The hotel prices dropped to practically nothing, and they were much cheaper than renting apartments. Well, it was kind of wild. Yeah.
Oh man, let me tell you, I was there, man. It was crazy. It was 4-star hotels going for like $35 a night.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. I came over momentarily for a short trip during that time as well, because that was right at the end of my last monthly event there. I remember it fondly. An ed tech startup, Class Plus, raises $65 million, and you're going to see a whole lot of those ed tech companies getting funded. They're about to be popping off like crazy. So that's not a surprise. Dan will like, or I should say, won't like the headline I was about to read. Where did it go? That the UK is now expected to miss its climate target goals by a long shot. UK risks missing its 2035 climate target by a huge margin, advisors warn. That they are obviously going to miss their 2035 climate change target by a very wide margin.
Yeah, well, I interviewed Kevin Anderson, he focuses on specifically that, actually. And you can see that on YouTube by searching for Climate Chat Club, and you can find that interview. Um, and of course, the UK is one of the best at it, right? That's kind of the point. It's not just that the UK is this lousy country who doesn't take climate seriously. They have set the highest ambitions of almost anyone, and they're not even coming close. And so just imagine what everyone else is doing, right? I think that's the point to take from that. It's not good all the way around. There are some good news things coming through that Sarah Dejari just posted here. I think Tech News as well, about India's company RIL in India putting a lot of money into clean items, fuel cells, batteries, and solar, and all that kind of stuff. And also Ambani, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're the big power company in India that's really coal based, and that they're also going to be doing that. So they were one of the top 100 companies. Let's see, the 100 companies that put out 71% of all emissions on Earth or something. And so that shaming thing happened the last few weeks. Maybe that got them to make
Mukesh
that
Ambani is not
announcement.
not shamed. Trust me.
Faraz,
Faraz, you want to
the
tell
one?
you
Is
want to
that
tell
not
this
the?
guy?
Did I get the
You want?
companies mixed up?
No. That's
The
Reliance,
coal
right?
company in India.
But are you talking about Reliance or because
Well, Reliance
Reliance?
is the main, but it also said Ambani in the article.
Yeah, that's Mukesh Ambani. That's the company. Mukesh
Oh,
Ambani
okay,
runs Reliance, right?
okay. I'm sorry
Reliance
because
is
it sounds
yeah,
similar
no.
to the coal company there
It's
for
Sorry,
some
like
can
the
I
reason.
just
massive.
intervene for a second? Dan, did you just call the UK a lousy country?
No, 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 no. I said that no, that was the opposite. I said that the UK set some of the highest ambitions for
No, that's
addressing
fine. But I
climate
heard a
change.
statement about something being lousy. What was that
No,
statement?
no, they did a lousy job. That's what the article is about. But all countries are doing a lousy job. That was my point. It's not. Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying the opposite. It makes it sound like the UK is like the lousy country in addressing climate change in this article. But I'm saying that's not the point. The point is they had set the highest ambitions and are missing them. And the other countries don't have as high ambitions and also are not doing well. So I said that you shouldn't see this as the UK is the lousy country in climate, which is, if you just read the headline and nothing else out of context, you might walk away with that feeling.
Okay, I hope so. I apologize if I misheard you. And then there was something about Ambani. Any confusion
Oh
around
no,
this
just
I
from
you,
our
you
that
end?
just
that that I
you,
obviously did confuse. Sorry about that.
yeah, no. Reliance is Mukesh Ambani. That's just confirming that for him. That's all.
Okay,
On the
great.
electric front, a lot of people are tweeting in about this electric tractor, which some people are saying might even be from Norway. They're calling it the Tesla of tractors. You got to see this. I just retweeted it from the Tech News Twitter account. It looks like a Tesla tractor. It looks super cool. Silicon Valley startup debuts electric tractor. In December last year, ag tech startup company Monarch Tractor, which has been referred to as the Tesla of the agriculture world, introduced the world's first single unit, fully electric, driver optional smart tractor. Utilizing machine learning, the Monarch tractor is able to digest data captured while operating to perform long term analysis of field health, improving accuracy the longer it runs, based in California's Silicon Valley. I've heard of that before, Silicon Valley. And run a team that includes big names such as former Boeing CEO. Monarch Tractor aims to start delivering its fully electric autonomous tractor at a price tag of just $50,000 by the end of the year. Shit, I want one. The company said in a statement released to announce the launch of its tractor that the machine would usher in the digital transformation of farming with unprecedented intelligence, technology, and safety features. According to the company, some of the many challenges the tractor would address include labor shortages, the effects of climate change, worker safety, increased customer scrutiny for sustainability, and government regulations on issues such as carbon emissions. We got ourselves an e-tractor, everybody. Well done. We did it. How there we go.
Current tractors are kind of amazing from an autonomous point of view. I rode in one of these things once, just decked out with computer screens, and it's going down the row and has little LEDs on it to show you how many inches left or right of where it's supposed to be. And it didn't go off of zero, by the way. It was an amazing, and the driver is not driving; he's just sitting there monitoring the screens. It was an amazing thing. So this gets rid of the fossil fuels driving the tractor, so that's great. A really big important
Evan,
thing.
if you're still with us, you shared this Wired story about Google launches a new medical app. What? Huh? Say, huh?
Yeah, right. So, but guess what? Not in the U.S. So the heat is
Oh,
probably
wow! What a
way too
coincidence.
much here.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting. I wonder why Google would do a medical app, but not in America, where they're currently under intense scrutiny for their Monopoly. This is too
And there was
interesting.
another article where Google has decreased its 30% like Apple like fees on the App Store.
Yeah,
I don't know
down
if
to
you talked about that.
15%. Yeah.
Yeah, so see,
Interesting how
it's
these
amazing
things.
what the the sheer action of promise of litigation and action. It's the same happened with Microsoft. I mean, really, it was the investigation that changed Microsoft's behavior around its browsers back in the day. It really wasn't the decree, which came much later. So it's all good.
It's all good. I wonder if this was planned for the U.S. and then now they decided, actually, let's not do the U.S. Let's do it outside the U.S. A very easy change on a dime on a
I
very
mean,
peculiar timing. Yeah.
yeah, and the app was actually, an app for good. I mean, detecting
Yeah,
melanoma.
that's
But the
great.
problem is, what else is that camera doing when it's scanning your body and your parts and other
Hmm.
things? So that's the question about data privacy, right?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Very interesting timing on that one. Um,
It's almost the opposite of regulatory capture, working in the other direction.
yeah. And then JT, if JT, are you still on stage with us about this, or Victoria, if you're with us, the Apple patent shows virtual interactive menu displayed user's wrist for AR VR. This is super cool. Holy smokes! You guys seen this? You got to see this. I just tweeted it from the Tech News Twitter account. Victoria, have you seen this?
I have not seen it, but that makes perfect sense, especially since Facebook is also going to have their own little wrist wearable.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the in my personal opinion, one of the better ways to do hand tracking in VR because that leads to a lot more accuracy than just the hand having extra sensors.
JT, you have a comment on this? Essentially, you have to see the photo to understand it, but it looks like you will now your left hand. Okay, turn your left hand up. Look at your palm. That whole fleshy area between your elbow and your wrist. That's now going to be a display, y'all, and a touch screen. So you're going to be able to touch the inner part of your arm and swipe and pinch and zoom and do everything else, and that will influence what you're seeing in VR. And that's the Apple patent. It's really cool. Um,
Yeah, that speaks to some of the research Apple has been doing previously with not only um, hand gesture detection, but also being able to display whatever content on your hands using wearables. So they talked about previously also having some form of like device, whether that was a ring or using your Apple Watch to generate content. So they've been doing a lot of research into this, and it's a perfect way to essentially have a user interface. Oculus uses it within the VR headset. Like if you go into like their venues or Horizons platforms, you pretty much like hold up your wrist and there's a menu that you can interact with, and it shows several options, and you could do several things like teleport into different worlds or whatever the case is. Yeah, so I find that very interesting. It's a good read. It goes beyond just what do you see in the picture. There's more to it than just that. But
yeah,
thanks for pointing that out.
sure. Mahogany, you did
I
this.
am so
What's
I
that?
am so excited to become a robot.
Aren't we all? Are you going to do the Neuralink brainstem implant? Because then you can
I'm
skip.
gonna do it all.
Yeah, you can skip the whole AR VR headset completely at that point. Um, Amazon Mahogany, about the Amazon self-driving trucks.
Oh yeah, not only did they buy 1,000 of those, but they bought the right to option about up to I think 20% of the company, which I
Yep,
think is called something like Plus.
that's right.
So I found that really
It
interesting
is.
as a play.
It's super interesting. Yeah, this whole delivery autonomous. This is interesting because it's the
And
the
and keep in
intermediary
mind
between they also invested very heavily in the semi trucks that deliver to the factory and the robots that deliver to your house, and this is the in between stage of these kind of medium sized vans, delivery vans, Dodge Sprinter vans and whatnot.
And keep in mind, they're facing some sort of human capital issues as some of their workers are trying to
Oh, have you heard that?
unionize, right?
Oh, have you heard that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was in the headlines again today. In
So
fact,
as you know, so the human beings wanting to unionize and causing headaches. I mean, this in parallel as an investment
Mahogany,
makes a lot of
welcome.
sense.
Welcome to Tech News Around the World, Mahogany. You are one of us, my friend. You see the big picture and these amazing coincidences that we find when we are able to look at all the headlines holistically as a huge multi-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. And it's amazing how these pieces fit together. What a strange coincidence that on the same day that Amazon facing new union threats from a much bigger union opponent in the Teamsters, they simultaneously are buying 1,000 self-driving trucks and with the option to become a major stakeholder in the company. What an amazing coincidence.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, how big tech created a treasure trove for police from Brand Boss, who listens from the audience, obviously, but sends in fantastic tweets that is right up our alley. And this one from the Independent in the UK. And the headline is again, how big tech created a treasure trove for police. I wonder if they're going to mention our friends at Ring Camera from Amazon. When U.S. law enforcement officials need to cast a wide net for information, they're increasingly turning to a vast digital ponds of personal data created by big tech companies via the devices and online services that have hooked billions of people around the world. Ooh, this sounds good. When U.S. law enforcement officials need to cast a wide net around the world, data compiled by 4 of the biggest tech companies shows that law enforcement requests for user information, phone calls, emails, texts, and etc. And it's paywalled, everybody. Damn it, that was just getting good.
They just stopped you in time.
Yes, right there. Wow, what a perfectly placed roadblock on that
Just
article.
building up to the, just building up to the Ring cameras and the Nest
Exactly.
cameras,
I
and
know.
you were just gonna get it.
But they're talking. They wow. They really timed that perfectly. The phone calls, the emails, the texts, and everything that big data, big tech has. Indeed, these governments, as we have heard lately, are often forced to hand over this stuff, as was revealed about 2 weeks ago. That when there was an investigation into Donald Trump collaborating with the Russians for his election, and the House Intelligence Committee chairman, Adam Schiff, even his data was being requested by Donald Trump's Department of Justice, Bill Barr, and the attorney generals were forcing Apple to hand over that sweet, sweet, juicy data, but for totally different reasons. They were not trying to monetize it. Oh, no. They were trying to incarcerate it, and the individual behind it, and to stop the meddlesome inquiries and investigations into said president's possible collaborations with Russians during their election. So it's indeed these big tech companies do have troves of data. That is a treasure trove for police, not just the police, but the Justice Department. And yeah, that it's a great point, great article. I wish I could read it independent, but I'm not a subscriber. Um, and sorry, one single button, and I got through the article. Okay, paywall removed. Here we go. So, data compiled by the 4 biggest tech companies shows that law enforcement's requests of user information, phone calls, emails, texts, photos, shopping histories. Oh boy, here we go again. Driving routes and more have more than tripled in the U.S. since 2015. Police are increasingly savvy about covering their tracks so as not to alert suspects of their interests. Aha! And you know how they do it? I know how they do it. So they're getting information about you from the police without you knowing. You know how they do that? They bundle it. They ask for 100 at the same time, making it appear to be anonymous, essentially. And so when the police hand over the 100, the police don't suspect, they were after this person, when in fact they were after one person, but they asked for 100 simultaneously, 99 others that they weren't really that interested in, as it was revealed during the Microsoft and Apple emails handovers to the Department of Justice. And Adam Schiff just coincidentally happened to be part of that group that they handed over. So that's the backdrop for recent revelations that the Trump era U.S. Justice Department sought data from Apple, Microsoft, and Google about members of Congress. Oh, here we go, Batman. Their aides and news reporters in leaked investigations then pursued court orders that blocked those companies from informing their targets. Oh, boy. And when you can do that, when you're the Department of Justice, the police can't do that, but the Department of Justice then makes a court order that gags Microsoft, Apple, and Google from being able to say that this data had been pulled from them against their will, no doubt. I mean, they because as soon as that gag was removed, they came out screaming bloody murder that the Department of Justice forced us to give up this information on Adam Schiff to Trump's team at the Department of Justice while we were investigating if Trump was in fact colluding with the Russians. In just the first half of 2020, the most recent data available, Apple, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft together fielded more than 112,000 data requests from local, state, and federal officials. Did I not just say an hour ago that all of these platforms are getting thousands of requests a day when people are saying stuff on these platforms that governments don't like? Do you guys remember this? Cal, does that ring a bell? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. So it says, consider Newport, Rhode Island, a coastal city of 24,000 residents that attracts a flood of summer tourists. Fewer than 100 officers patrol the city, but they make multiple requests a week for online data from tech companies. That's because most crimes, from larceny and financial scams to recent fatal house party stabbing at a vacation rental booked online, can be at least partly traced on the internet. Tech providers, especially social media platforms, offer a treasure trove of information that can help solve them, said Lieutenant Robert Salter, a supervising police detective in Newport. Everything happens on Facebook, quote unquote. According to the police detective, Mr. Salter said, the amount of information you can get from people's conversations online, it's insane, quote unquote. Oh boy. Yes, these tech companies are indeed tracking an insane amount of data about people that you as the police have access to if you have a subpoena or a court order. As ordinary people have become increasingly dependent on big tech services to help manage their lives, American law enforcement officials have grown far more savvy about technology than they were 5 or 6 years ago, said Cindy Cohen, executive director of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, what we call the EFF, a digital rights group. That's created what Cohen calls the golden age of government surveillance. Not only has it become far easier for police to trace the online trails left by suspects, they can also frequently hide their requests by obtaining gag orders from judges and magistrates. Those orders block big tech companies from notifying the targets of subpoenas or warrants of law enforcement's interests in their information, contrary to the company's stated policies. Of course, there's a reason for such secrecy, said Andrew Pack, a former federal prosecutor. It helps prevent investigations getting sidetracked because someone learns about it, he said. The target, perhaps, or someone close to it. And then it goes into more of the Trump story. It's a really
Hey,
fantastic article.
Tyler,
Yeah.
yeah, Ty, I sent that in yesterday too, but I also wanted to include, like, let's not forget 23andMe and those biometric
Oh, don't.
companies
Oh,
too,
my
because
God.
the police can actually seize that as well,
Damn right
or
they can.
request their DNA as well. So on top of that, so when you're submitting your DNA, not that anybody on this panel would do anything, knock knock, the police can seize that as well.
And on the day that Rudy Giuliani lost his license to practice law today, um, I think we're going to see Bill Barr doing some fancy splaining in the future about some of these subpoenas.
Indeed, we are. As if his appearance with Kamala Harris and Cory Booker wasn't entertaining enough. My God, if you want to see a grown man shit himself silly, that's the video to watch. Holy cow! What a shit show. Bill Barr, my God. Anyway, somebody can retweet that article. I'll tweet it out again. I can't stop retweeting that video of Harris grilling Bill Barr. Did President Trump at any time ask you to investigate anybody? Um, um, yes or no, sir? It's
You
classic.
should just pin that on the top of the
I
Twitter
know it should
account
be the
for a while.
pinned tweet. Yeah. So somebody sent in that U.S. Root V's, who joins us in the other time zone typically, sent in that U.S. lobbying groups view India's e-commerce plan as worrying and believes India's proposed new e-commerce rules are cause for concern, which maybe it would take somebody from India to explain that. It's like, why is that concerning to U.S. lobbying groups? What's so concerning about India's e-commerce plans? This is coming in from Reuters. I'm kind of curious myself. A top lot.
What's interesting, Tyler,
Hmm?
is that India is starting to try to crack down on
Oh,
Amazon
that's
and
why. There you go. That's it. Thank you,
and
Mahogany.
I
I'm
did an article about that.
I'm reading it right
Yeah.
now, and you're exactly right. That's what it's implying in the first paragraph. Yeah, you're right. It's the fact that India is starting to crack down on the American e-commerce giant Amazon in India, and Americans don't like that when you're cracking down on our big tech
And
companies.
Walmart.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Walmart.
Walmart
So
and
I think
Flipkart.
this
Yep.
is my
You got
yeah,
it.
so this is a retaliation.
You nailed it.
Possibly.
Yeah. A Paraguay official plans to legislate Bitcoin next month, which we'll see how that happens. Linda Maria Anderson from Sweden, who was a professional in the fintech space, also sent in that Tink is joining Visa for about $2.2 billion. Cal, you sent in BuzzFeed nears deal to go public via SPAC. Eyeing a digital media roll-up company hopes scale will make it easier to compete for ad dollars with Google, Facebook, and Amazon. And you know what? It won't. Your days are numbered, BuzzFeed. It's just simple math. But did you have a take on this one, Cal?
No take other than just I knew you'd say that.
Yeah,
I knew you'd say no chance
yeah,
just because you're public.
yeah. No, but I mean, you know what it is the investors need to liquidate. It's a liquidation event to when you go
Yeah,
public.
and they could and the SPACs are desperate right now. I mean, there's
That too.
so many
Oh
of
yeah.
them looking for
Oh, exactly.
some companies.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're looking for anyone who wants to SPAC. Oh shit, we looked through all the medtechs and all the fintechs. Okay, BuzzFeed. Ah, shit. Oh, okay, yeah, I guess. I guess we'll take BuzzFeed to the dance.
We're nearing our 2-year limitation. All the SPACs have
Right,
only 2 years before
right.
they find the deal.
That's right. And so,
Hey, Kyle.
yeah,
I'm
but
sorry. I
if I
wanted to chime in on SPACs because I came from a Wall Street background. Just
go
one sentence.
go Ken.
Um,
Go ahead, man.
one of the advantages of the SPACs and people wanting to use them, they're allowed to make much wider ranging, forward looking statements to entice investors
Yep,
than you would in a traditional IPO.
totally.
And I think that window's going to go away because the SEC is looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Other big news, Cal, you sent in this one. Top venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz triples down on crypto with a new $2.2 billion fund. Wow. They're not joking around.
That's the big breaking. That's the breaking news today, right?
Yeah, I mean they are
Um,
doubling down on crypto. I mean they've been one of the biggest bettors in Silicon Valley from the traditional VC firms, and they're
Katie Horn is
yes,
going to be on the Good Time
uh
show
huh,
later tonight
uh
with Chris Dixon, I think.
yep,
Yeah. Sorry, U.S. time later tonight.
yep,
So that would be interesting.
yep. And then the tractor one, and then the Vario VR headset one again. And I'm just gonna retweet this Vario headset one again because you really got to see this. I'm tweeting it right now from the Tech News Twitter account, and it shows a lady with a headset on, and it does this slow panoramic circle around her, and it gives you a glimpse as to what she's seeing through the headset and how the reality will completely change. It gives you a little glimpse of what it's like to be in that kind of multiverse environment. One of the big headlines, also speaking of Andreessen Horowitz, is how Tiger Global is changing Silicon Valley. And you've seen how they're changing Silicon Valley if you follow us every day, because they are listed as an investor in every big deal that's happening, like in a shocking number of deals are being backed by Tiger Global. They are absolutely jumping into every deal. It's really unprecedented. So much so that The Economist has done this story titled How Tiger Global is Changing Silicon Valley. The impact of the hyperactive New York hedge fund will be more profound than the deep-pocketed tourists such as SoftBank. And what they're referring to by calling SoftBank deep-pocketed is because Masa, who runs SoftBank, has a reputation, and correctly so, for paying way too much. he boosts the valuations of these startups and is willing to pay way more than other investors will to block other investors from getting in the deals. He does quite a number of deals, but more importantly, he does deep pocketed deals. He really goes big into the deals, where Tiger is just on a volume basis is just hyperactive, as the headline says, and it's a fun read if you want to know how how Silicon Valley is fundamentally being changed by Tiger Global, based out of New York, and just the sheer number of deals. They've plowed money into 118 startups, 10 times more than it did last year. So they've done a 10x increase in 2021, and it seems there's no end in sight. It's not easy to get into all these deals they're getting into, and all the other investors are getting a little bit envious, and I would even say concerned. It's just it's been wild to watch Tiger Global get into every deal under the sun lately, and that's from The Economist. I just tweeted that out, and there's the first ever Middle East Bitcoin fund launches in Dubai. And to tie those two stories together, before we hand it over to Ben to do the AI news,
We actually have two rooms, Tyler.
yes,
We also have Michelle.
that's right.
Michelle's launching at the same time. Are
That
you launching at the same time,
Yep.
Michelle? Are you opening? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll open it in a minute.
And by the way, so I'll pause here. The on that Middle Eastern fund and of the idea of investing and everything, we're doing on the 30th of this month a very special Tech News Around the World, where we will also have, it's our what we do once every month, where we get really good, proper investors and proper startups and have them do Tinder live on stage. It's kind of speed dating for real money, real pitches, real investors. And hope you join us for that on the 30th. It's already in the calendar by clicking on the Tech News, the title of this room, when scrolling through the upcoming rooms, where you will also see, you go ahead and RSVP for that one on the 30th. There'll also be a Shopify live stream as part of that event, which will be great, with the CEO of Shopify. And in the meantime, right now, we're going to hand it over to Michelle, who's going to do FAANG. If you want to work at one of the big tech companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Google, the team members from all of those companies will be joining on stage to help answer questions from people who want to join those companies, or who are applying or a part of that process, want to learn more, everything else. It's a fantastic public service that they do here in Clubhouse for free of charge, but absolutely valuable for folks who are looking to get join those teams that are hiring like it's like there's no end in sight. So awesome that they do that. And then Ben just started his Thursday AI news with Jean-Francois, and the other AI geeks will be over there, so you can do the deep dive on the AI. And I'll be bouncing between the two rooms, as I'm known to do. I'll leave with one last headline that I just can't not do, from Evan, about the nonverbal overload, the theoretical argument for the cases of Zoom fatigue. And it speaks to Clubhouse, why we can sit here for 4 hours and leave feeling charged.
Absolutely. Audio first.
Totally.
I hate video.
Me too. But you can't, no one
Me
can
too.
do 4 hours of Zoom and not feel fatigued, but you can do, I did 4 hours of Zoom earlier today for Tech News Around the World, and here we are. I could do 4 more hours right now on my head. So hopefully we get to a more audio-based, chat-based.
And Zoom fatigue, it's a real thing.
Oh, it's real.
A real mental
it's
challenge.
super
physiologically,
real. Yeah.
It's not just an imaginary thing that we've made up.
Yep. So thank you for that. I'll save the other headlines, including Justine, my friend in Santa Monica, just did a walkthrough tour, beautiful HD video of the new Apple Store in downtown Los Angeles. So I'll retweet that right now for those who want to see that brand new remodel of the Tower Theater in downtown LA. It's absolutely stunning. So thank you, everybody. We will see you in the AI room, or in the Michelle's job fair room, or we'll see you back here tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Tyler, did y'all schedule the VC startup for Africa again? I know you mentioned it.
Last month was Africa. This month is Middle East.
Okay, yeah, I told some people about it, and they're highly interested in it. I sent them the Middle East one, too.
Perfect.
So.
Yeah, every month we change the geography. So 2 months ago it was Asia, then we did Africa, now we're doing Middle East. Next one might be Nordics. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a great Thursday.
Right. Sell your